Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Planning East meeting. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. This meeting is taking place in the council chamber at Shepton Mallet, and we have members of the planning committee, officers, public speakers, and members of the public physically present in the chamber. We also have members of the public watching the meeting on Teams. Cameras within the council chamber allow us to film the meeting for viewers on Teams and also to record the meeting. Therefore, any members of the public present, should they be aware that they may be recorded, even if they're not participating in the meeting. If this causes you any concerns, please let us know now. Members who have brought their device with them should ensure that cameras are switched off, and very importantly, their device microphone and speakers are muted for the duration of the meeting. Otherwise, this causes feedback within the council sound system. Public speakers contributing to the meeting virtually should switch off their cameras and put their microphones on mute until they're invited to speak by the chair. It's not permitted for any other member of the public viewing by Teams or within the council chamber to contribute to the meeting at any time. Should any member of the planning committee wish to speak, please raise your hand and catch the attention of myself, the Vice Chair Tony, the legal advisor or lead officers when members and lead officers. When members in the chamber speak, remember to switch on your desk microphone so all those in attendance can hear you. Please do not use the chat function within Teams for anything. All contributions must be made verbally. Please can all mobile phones be set to silent, please. And on that, I end up the housekeeping and I'm happy now to move on to the agenda. And the first thing I need to do is note absences and substitutions. Can you inform us, Helen, where we are on that?
Yes, thanks, Chair. So we've had two apologies. Councillor Adam Boyden, and we have Councillor Steve Ashton, who's subbing for him, and Councillor Phil Ham, and we have Councillor Alistair Hendry subbing for him today. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, I'm delighted to welcome Simon Caswell, who is joining us for the first time now. It has in the past been a member of the committee, so delighted to have you on board again. Thank you. We'll now move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, and these have been pre-circulated, but in time-honoured tradition, we have a number of pages, and I will very quickly go through them. Pages 1, 2, and 3. Any comments? 4, 5, and 6. No, and page 7. Can I have a proposer to accept these minutes, please? Thank you. And the seconder? Thank you, Helen. Right, we'll now move on from that to declarations of interest. And this is specifically on the items on the agenda. And do I have any additional declarations of interest up from the ones cited in your register of interest? No? Okay, thank you for that. We'll move on to public question time, and I'm not aware of any questions. Is that still the case, Helen? Public questions?
That's correct, yes, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We have, first of all, unusually the first two items, something which we have seen before, and I have asked the officers to give an explanation why they're coming back to the committee, and I ask our legal advisor to perhaps explain where we are with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors and members of the public. If I can, I wanted to address you on 2 points before you consider the planning applications before you. One is in respect of the notification of the meeting, because I know there's been some comment regarding that, and the other is in respect of the reconsideration of applications that have been before committee previously. So with regard to it's on off itself. There's been some comment that it's procedurally flawed and we are not satisfying the legal requirements. So officers have reviewed this and we can assure you that the legislation has been followed. So the legislation is Schedule 12 of the Local Government Act 1972, paragraph 41A, or very formal, and it applies specifically to the formal notice and summons for council meetings, not to general notification letters to residents, consultees or third parties. So the legislation sets out that notice of a meeting, so that's the time and place, must be published at the council offices at least 5 clear working days prior to the meeting. And a summons to attend a meeting must be sent to every member of the council for that meeting. So that is all the councillors on the committee. So this must be authenticated by the proper officer and can be delivered by post or electronically. This council sends out a meeting pack, including the agenda and all the papers for the meeting, which fulfil the legislative requirements. And this was done on Monday, the 27th of October, giving the required time period. So under the Act, there is further requirement of the council that there must be public access to the agenda and reports. And these were publicly available from Monday, the 27th of October on the council's website. So the statutory requirements have been complied with. It's just unfortunate that there was an error with third-party notification letters. They fall outside of the legislative requirements, and they were resent. So they were originally sent on the 27th with an error, but they were resent on Tuesday the 28th as quickly as possible when that error was discovered. So that's with regard to the notification of the meeting. So then in respect of reconsideration of a couple of the applications that are before you, if I can explain why they're coming back really. So when a committee resolved to refuse a planning application, that resolution does not have legal effect until the planning authority issues a formal decision notice. And until that point, the application remains live and subject to change. There's no statutory provision that prevents reconsideration of an application prior to the issue of the decision notice. This is supported by case law and planning practice guidance, which recognises that the planning authority may revisit its position if new material information arises. So new material information sometimes becomes available after the committee resolution, but before the decision notice is issued. And this can include technical clarifications or corrections, amended plans, additional evidence addressing the reasons for refusal. Where such information is relevant and material to the planning considerations, officers may recommend that the application be returned to committee for further review. The decision to reconsider must be based solely on material planning considerations and not be influenced by external pressure or non-planning matters. So only once the formal decision is issued will the refusal become legally binding. And at that point, an applicant's options are just submit a new application or lodge Section 78 appeal. So basically, yeah, that is why we are revisiting a couple of the applications today. The planners can talk to you in more detail about what has brought that revisiting about in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Could I take Claire Sully, who's got a question on this?
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. Thank you, Martin. It's a pity that you've unintentionally misinterpreted my query, as it was me that brought up about notifications, and I stress the word unintentionally. I acknowledge that the planning department, the legal department, you're here to implement policy. You're here to stick to the legislation. That policy and legislation is put forward by those who are elected, government, and local government working in consultation with the electorate and stakeholders. When I brought it to the attention of the planning department that no acknowledgement had gone out, or a correct acknowledgement had gone out, to give the local stakeholders time to understand, to get together and to explain to their communities why a planning application was going to be returned to the board, nothing was going to be done. So there was no, I did say, could we defer it so that we can let the parish council and stakeholders discuss the planning application? That was not, the request wasn't acknowledged. It was just said, we've stuck to the law. So I just want my colleagues to know that I do not think it's might be legally correct that you put it on the website. And we hope for the best that the communities might just stumble upon the website and spot it. But I don't think it's morally correct that we don't let the local community have time to come together to discuss it. So I just want to, that's to my first point. I also want to just share with colleagues that we must be careful about being told judgments in court before they have got to court, or if they ever do get to court. We're quite often told that we would lose this in a court case or a planning inspectorate. But I think that we know that if there is a good case, if there's good evidence, there's good expertise, that it's not a one-way direction. So I just when we are told that it's going to go to court, we've got no, no leg to stand on, we have no choice. I think we just have to look at a recent case that's happened in Frome, where we did refuse, it did go to planning inspectorate, and then it ultimately gets supported by government. However, I do say I'm not the expert on the law, and I'm not an expert on planning. I'm experienced now on planning, but I just want those points to be considered by my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. I do really want to move on to the next one. Is this a new point other than what the Councillor Sally's made?
No, I'm just backing up her point, which is what I did in writing at the time, and I'd like that on record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for noting that. Right, we'll move then on to item 5 on the agenda, and I think we have an officer presentation for us. Thank you. This is to remind people, land off Norbans Road, Glastonbury, and this is to look again at this particular application. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, yeah, as you say, this is land off Norbans Road, Glastonbury. The proposal is the demolition of a garage block and to be replaced by the erection of 6 affordable homes with associated access, parking and landscaping. So this application was first considered.
Yes, Councillor Hart. Could you put your hand up? Is there a...
Sorry, I did, because I thought we were going to get an explanation for why it's come back again. I still haven't understood.
I think you need to wait and listen and look what's up on the screen. Give the officer a chance, but thank you.
Okay, I thought he was going straight. It sounded like we were going straight into it in the way that we normally do.
Yeah, the screen up now is the reason as to why it's come back to committee. So I was saying, so this application was first considered by planning committee in June 25. At that point, the policy GL7, part of the limited update to the amended local plan, was not adopted. Following at that point, it was resolved by committee to refuse the application. However, the applicant would have had 6 months to lodge an appeal. The deadline of which would have been the 3rd of December, so it's still not expired. And should that have happened, the council would have been at risk had the appeal been lodged, because risk comes because the limited update since September 2025 has formally been adopted. And regardless of whether the decision had been issued after the committee, this application would still have needed to be brought back to committee for consideration had an appeal been lodged, given the change in status to policy GL7. So either way, it would have ended up back here, but we would have been at more risk had it ended up back here following the appeal being lodged. So the purpose of representing the application is to determine if members still wish for the application to be refused, as the site is now formally adopted under GL7 or the limited update to deliver 6 units of affordable housing. So it's your consideration today as to whether there are any issues that would outweigh the policy allocation as set out in the updated local plan. So a further update, since the report pack was published, 4 additional letters of objection have been received from local residents. There were 2 main points raised. These were concerns regarding the loss of the car park and the impact this could have on the surrounding roads in terms of highway safety and also the economy to the town. The second point was questioning why this application has been referred back to committee after a decision was previously taken. I feel like that's just been addressed on the previous screen and also by our legal advisor earlier. I will also further address the first point in the following screen. So in terms of the motive as to why the application has come back, again, the fact that it's council-owned land is not a material planning consideration, and the transfer of that land to the applicant is completely separate from us and our team, so that plays no influence. In terms of the impact the application will have on, or the loss of the car park will have on the town, I'd just like to highlight that there are 5 other car parks within close proximity of Norbins Road and also the High Street generally. So you can see my cursor. I mean, this is the High Street. I'm sure you're all very familiar with Glastonbury. So there's car parks scattered around either side of the High Street with ample car parking spaces. And when the site was allocated, it was determined that the loss of Norbins Road would not have a significant impact through the loss of that car park, effectively. So this now moves on to the original presentation that was presented back in June. So I'll just go through these slides quickly as a refresher. So the yellow kind of shape in the middle, that is Norbins Road car park. The red line is obviously the development limits of Glastonbury itself. So again, the yellow lines show the location of the car park. You can see the High Street just to the south of the larger aerial view, and then a closer up of the car park from above. So there is a primary school just to the south of the car park here, and there is an access that goes through the car park. It's more of a service access, I believe, to the school, and that's proposed to be retained. You'll see that on the plans on the slides coming up. Okay, again, location plan, so just a red line to show exactly the location of the car park. The school is this building here to the south. Site plan shows the spacing. The location of the garage block currently is this white block here to the western edge. Also shows the overhanging trees, which are all proposed to be retained. So this is the proposed site plan. So you have two terraces of free properties, all with car parking along the western side and to the front. These ones have front gardens. They've all got fairly good sized rear gardens. The access is proposed as existing to the car park. There's space here to turn around the corner. The service access to the school is retained, and there's an area there which is to be kept clear and marked as such. There's also visitor parking along almost underneath the trees, really, along the southern edge. So the proposed elevation, so this is the first terrace of 3 properties, so plots 1 to 3. Again, very simple in design, the gable end to add some interest, break up the facade. And yeah, I think both terraces are fairly similar. On to the next terrace, almost just flipped. So the gable is on the other end this side. So this is the view from the street scene. You see the section here comes from the access point up to the other kind of access onto the, I think that's private access track to the rear of the properties, to the, I think it's Archer's Way, I believe from memory. So this is how the properties will look as you access the sites and kind of look out almost from the direction of the school towards the proposed dwellings. In terms of active travel opportunities, I mean, this is very close to the high street. There's plenty of schools within easy walking distance, supermarkets, parks, all accessible via foot or bicycle. Again, it's a very sustainable location. There's pedestrian kind of walkways from the car park that link through to the high street as well. The parking layouts, you can see the allocated parking is the light blue. Visitor parking is the orange dots underneath the trees. And then you have secure bicycle storage for each unit as well in the rear gardens. So this demonstrates how large refuse vehicles will access the site. So as you can see, the sweat path analysis does demonstrate that there is accessibility for refuse vehicles. Again, this will also likely be used by service vehicles to the school, so it also demonstrates how they will access the site. Biodiversity enhancements, I mean, currently it is just a tarmac car park, so any enhancements will be a plus. So this shows that there will be bird boxes, bee bricks and bat boxes proposed, as well as some hedgerow planting, front lawns, rear gardens. The permeability of the site will be increased just through the removal of the tarmac and the introduction of lawns and rainwater harvesting as well. Separation distances. So this just demonstrates the distance to the existing neighbouring properties. As you can see, the separation distances are quite significant, really. 25 metres to the properties along Norbins Road, 27 metres to the rear of the properties along Archer's Way, and then 8 metres to the rear gardens, again, of the properties along Norbins Road, all of which are considered acceptable from a planning point of view. So photos of the site currently, again, this is taken from the, I think the eastern edge. So this path here is the rear kind of access track, which these properties along Archer's Way use to access their rear gardens and parking areas. So it's not a formally adopted highway. And then the bottom picture shows the general view of the car park from the southeast corner. So this is the existing garage block in the car park, which is proposed to be demolished. And then the top picture shows the rear of the houses along Norbins Road. Oops, sorry, skipped one there. This is the access to the site. So the access will be kind of up on your right-hand side. And then this is looking down Norbins Road. And then the top picture will be looking up Norbins Road towards the high street. And obviously you can see the church there in the background. Again, more pictures of the car parks. This shows the service access that's there currently to service the school, which is proposed to be retained, so access will remain. This is where the track into the site will be, proposed track. Again, so this is looking back at the front of the block of garages, as mentioned, and the top photo is looking out from the site down the access track towards Norbins Road. Again, the photo on the left-hand side is looking up the access track into the car park. So that's the access that will also be used for the proposed properties. The right-hand photo, you can see that as a walkway which goes up to the high street. So that can be used by future residents to access the high street on foot or by bike. Again, you see the church in the background. And again, just some general pictures of the car park currently. So in terms of section 106, the only proposed heads of terms would be to secure the 100% affordable housing. And the recommendation is to approve with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Right, we'll move on then to, I think, some public speakers. And I have in front of me, the first one is Maggie Dear. Is Maggie with us? Ah, great, welcome. You have 3 minutes, you know.
Thank you. I'll be as quick as I can. Good afternoon, councillors and members of the local council. My name's Maggie Dear and I've lived at 44 Norbins Road for the last 31 years. I also run the Norbins Road Car Park Development Facebook group. I'm here today to speak about planning application, as we've discussed, and what the paperwork calls land off Norbins Road. But let's be honest, that's not just land, it's the Norbins Road car park, and that car park is absolutely vital to the people who live and work and visit here. Over the last couple of days, bearing in mind we've had very short notice of this, we've spoken with dozens of residents, both online and face-to-face. That's in addition to the 10 written objections already sent in. We've managed to gather 42 more objections to this plan. And that's just in the short time frame. With proper notice, I've no doubt we'd have seen an even broader response from locals right across Glastonbury. Parking is already under severe pressure in this part of town. The car park isn't some underused patch of tarmac. It's in constant use by residents, visitors, carers to local vulnerable people, tradespeople who simply can't find space on the crowded surrounding streets. There are at least 2 communal dwellings nearby with no dedicated parking at all. I cannot understate how calamitous the loss of this parking would be to us as local residents. We also strongly dispute the data being used to justify this proposal. The figures claiming only 16% usage were gathered during lockdown, when travel was restricted and parking habits were nothing like normal. We're now collecting photographic evidence showing just how busy the car park really is. Since parking restrictions were introduced on Wells Road, parking pressure has only intensified. Taking away more spaces doesn't make the problem go away, it just pushes it onto our already congested residential streets. We already suffer huge congestion on our narrow streets with residents, visitors, tourists and local workers, including teaching staff and parents at St John's School, circling the area in search of somewhere to park. There's also a real impact on families and the school. Parents use this car park for drop-offs because they have work commitments, young children and limited time. The idea that everyone can simply walk in isn't realistic for many families. If the car park goes, parents will have to double park on Archers Way and Norbins Road, creating more congestion and safety risks, issues that we're already struggling with daily. Another potential risk is that it may only take one frustrated motorist and one impatient child, bearing in mind these are under 7s, there to be an incident which will reverberate throughout the town and beyond. So I ask, what do we really gain here? 6 houses when there are plans for major housing developments less than a mile away? In contrast, we stand to lose a shared resource that supports residents, businesses, visitors and families every single day. This proposal isn't just poor planning, it's harmful to our community. Once that car park is gone, it's gone for good. So I urge you, please reject this application, help protect the limited parking and shared spaces that keep our neighbourhood working in all of our best interests. Thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you and well done for the timing and thank you for coming this afternoon.
Thank you.
Right, we now move on to the second public speaker, another resident, Dr. Mortimer.
My property makes up the most part of the west border of the site, and I've called at all the houses personally in the nearby vicinity to take a poll, collect opinions and concerns, which were many and unanimously against this proposal. Everybody had so much information and feel so strongly it was quite overwhelming to hear it all. There is a huge amount of antipathy from Glastonbury residents to this proposal, anger and disbelief that it's being brought up again when it's been voted out twice already. Many said that they have sent emails opposing, not just the 4 that I've heard. Most hadn't even been given notification or very short notice, and they just found out from neighbours. Maggie's covered the parking need, so I'm going to talk about other issues. This planning proposal would produce extremely dense, overcrowded housing, which might be acceptable in a city with all the noise and overlooking may be tolerated, but not a small market town. There's already a lack of open space with dense residential streets, and with the trees cut and light pollution, extra demand on services and infrastructure, it produces a bleak overlooking both to the houses at the side, including mine, where I have full windows down all of my living areas, but also directly onto my neighbour's back garden, at the front directly into the windows and activity play areas of St John's School and the gate where these children pick up their children. The children have to gather here for 5 drills. The school is already hemmed in with one other doorway entrance by a narrow passage and the other on a one-way through road where there's no parking, and I've been told that the head teacher is also very strongly against. Residents on Archers Way have told me of many incidents of sewage pipes bursting at the back of their houses which will serve the site, and the attending plumbers tell them that the pipes are old and cracked. I raised this issue with planning last year, who told, because the pipe runs under my property as well, and I was told that the pipe calculations have been done and it's all fine. But have they spoken to these plumbers, and who will be liable for the drains under my house when the new residents' waste? The Astor residents are complaining that they pay huge rent but receive understanded maintenance for their already existing homes, failing recent landlord legislation, and they call them disaster. They tell me that the houses, such as one at St Edmunds next to the site, are being sold off. So how can making the argument for the need for affordable housing and clearing long housing lists be believed if they're selling off houses and one right by the site? It was noted at the first meeting that no public consultation had taken place before this conditional sale from the council to Astor had been made back in 2018. Conditions on granting planning, which the council itself fulfills, which begs the obvious question, is the real choice of this particular site and the bulldozing of it through all about money where profit is to be made from the sale instead of having to buy a site of which there are much better options available. I have requested details of this conditional sale contract and received no reply, and I believe this information will be most relevant to this planning application and needs to be made available to the public. It was stated at the last meeting that the council still owns the land, but what are the conditions? We also believe from local residents that this land was originally gifted to the town council by a resident called Mr Higgins, with the condition that it is for the use for Glastonbury residents, for use as a car park. Can we have the details of this, please? I witnessed at the last meeting the council's literally being told that this must go through and how they must vote, which was very surprising as a democratic process. I don't know where most of the councillors voting here live, but this is what the actual residents are unanimously saying, very clearly saying for the 3rd time, we don't want this proposal to go through. Overwhelmingly in Glastonbury, and hope that this will be heard.
Thank you, Dr. Mortimer. Thank you for taking time today to come and join us. Right, I have no other public speakers unless I'm informed otherwise. Nope, great. I will now open it to members of the committee. Any thoughts or questions at this stage? I'll start with Councillor Ashton and then Councillor Kay.
Forgive me for being, I'm doing this from memory from last time, but the utilisation of the car park was done on ticket sales last time, and that's daytime. Whereas the evidence that was presented by people who came along to talk about it said it's almost 100% full at night time. So the statement that it's underutilised is not factually correct. It's only factually correct for the ticket sales, which is during the day. So that's why I would say that statement is under question. And that was also made as an argument for turning this down last time, but hasn't been mentioned in the minutes at all.
Thank you. Does the officer want to respond to that at all? Do we have any background to the numbers?
That's working now. Councillor Ashton, to some extent, whilst obviously the lawful use of the site as a car park, it currently might be used more in the evening than it is during the day. But really what's key for you in your role this afternoon is to consider the weight that you want to give to the council's adopted policy framework, which allocates the site for development. So the local planning process, and this is covered in the report pack at 2.4, obviously the process has been gone through separate to this planning application process, where the council publicised its intentions to allocate this site for housing, and that has been completed. And as part of that process, in planning policy terms, the site is now adopted to be redeveloped for housing. So almost the extent to which it's valuable as a car park, or its use as a car park, the examination of that has almost been undertaken through that local planning process. And what Jenny put up on her first slide for you to consider at the meeting today is effectively what you've got to take into account. You have to give significant weight to the fact that the site is now allocated for housing in the council's development plan. And whilst the car park might be used by local residents, that in itself has been considered as part of that local planning process.
Thank you. I have Councillor Kay and then Councillor Hart.
Thank you. I've come into this late. I wasn't at the June meeting, so I watched it on the recording on Saturday night whilst I ate my dinner. And I listened to over 40 minutes of people talking about how the car parking space was used for local residents, used more at night, the problems of developing this for housing. However, what didn't seem to sort of, and I think Simon Trafford actually said it about 6 times, is that he, as he just has now, is that nobody held this up. I don't think that we've actually had sufficient training about these development plans. This is the local plan part 2. It was agreed it went out for the second consultation just before we got elected as district councillors, for those of you that were elected at the same time as me in 2019. And unfortunately, a lot of things changed. That was called Regulation 19, where it went out. A lot of things changed at the end when we were actually busy campaigning. I don't know if local councillors then, like the town council or the local councillors that were in existence back then, actually told their local residents, and whether the people in the surrounding area were told about this. But this was allocated back in 2018-19, as I understand that, if I understand that correctly. It's there, and there's actually a map for Glastonbury, and it's there on the map. And I think that we just have to understand that, even if we don't like it, and even if it wasn't actually consulted on very well, and it sounds like it wasn't, that is a parameter that we should be respecting. And this has been recently been verified properly, as we've been told in this update report. So I just wanted to set that as a context thing. If this is going to go through, however, I have got a couple of questions around the conditions and some of the detail. So let me get the conditions up, excuse me. So with water use, Councillor Barry Clark at the last meeting noticed about how there'd been some flooding on one corner of the car park. And also the lady who lives in an adjacent property mentioned about how the sewage it's going to go towards her garden and under her garden. And she's just told us now there's a problem with that. It seems to me that in one case we talk about there's actually a sewer underneath the car park. In one case it's called a foul sewer, and another it's called a surface water sewer. Am I to assume it's one of these combined sewers where everything goes into one sewer because it's an old area? And then we've got a condition 5, and we've got a condition precedent, which I think says that we have to have a plan for how we're going to deal with all the water and the sewer before any development is allowed to take place. That's assuming we give permission today. If that's the case, and they investigate and they find out it's a broken sewer, it's old, the whole thing needs to be replaced, is that then incumbent upon the developer to do that and to make sure that that is replaced and that it functions properly? That's my first question. My other questions are also around water. It's got, sorry, I've just got, on page 41 of the specific paper that we're looking at today. Oh no, this is the original paper. We've got Natural England and Wessex Water making suggestions about pervious paving and also restricting water use in the properties to, I think, something like 1,100 litres a week or something like that. There's actually a figure in there. And I want to know, I think that you have made a requirement for water butts. I think what you're trying to do is not allow too much surface water to go into that surface drain, which is good. But we haven't got, as far as I can see, pervious paving in the condition 6, or it might be one of the other conditions. It might be condition 10 under parking, where it's more appropriate. I'm not quite sure which condition it should go under. And also it's recommended that we have something called source control features, which presumably means these kind of taps in the building that spray the water rather than run continuous water to use less water. Don't seem to be conditioning that either. So I just wonder if, and then lastly, under condition 6.15 and also in the paper, we've got 2010 building standards quoted, and I wanted to know why we couldn't have solar panels or some better building standards, so that we actually are building for the future. So these are I know they're very specific, but I'm thinking if this is going to go through, and it may be that the committee will vote again not to let it go through, but if it is going to go through, then I want it to be the best it can possibly be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kay, for your helpful comments. Would the officer like to respond to a number of questions there?
Yep, I'll do my best. So if I start with the pipes that go across the site currently, part of condition 6, the second paragraph of condition 5, sorry, does require there to be a full survey of the surface water drain crossing the site to ascertain whether the existing drain or what the existing drain is serving and where the outfall is. So if it were discovered that that drain wasn't sufficient, I mean, this condition was requested by Wessex Water, so it would be.
Yes, it's a two-part condition effectively. So the strategy they need to submit for approval requires them to do the analysis of the existing infrastructure, and obviously if as Janice said, that's found not to be sound, that would need to be reflected in the strategy that they submit to us for approval. So that point should be managed by condition 5, Councillor Kay.
And can I just ask, will Wessex Water or the local flood authority or some other specialist body be approving that?
It would be submitted to the planning authority and we would consult with them as a technical consultancy, yes.
And as a follow-up, so in regards to the water usage, that's covered by condition 15, which relates also to the phosphates and the amount of credits they need to purchase to offset the phosphates generated by this site. In terms of the building regs, I mean, that is our standard reference point. So I think
Sorry, can I just not ask, was there not some new building regs out in 2021 or something?
Yeah, I think your point about the building regs, Councillor Kay, was more to do with whether or not the committee could seek the provision of solar panels as part of the development proposal.
Well, high insulation standards, yes, so to lower energy costs, yeah.
Yeah, so again, that is something that if you did want to impose following debate and discussion, that could be added as a separate condition.
And in terms of the impermeable paving on the site, I mean, currently it is a car park that's tarmacked. So the creation of the gardens, rainwater harvesting butts, I mean, they're all a positive. They're a gain on what's there currently. They reduce the surface water runoff. Also, permeable paving is an issue for refuse vehicles. So the maintenance of permeable paving in terms of those larger vehicles using or driving over that kind of surfacing. It's also unsuitable for infiltration.
What about the parking spaces? Could it be something that's added to the materials section where we check the materials when they come in, and then we ask for permeable paving for the parking spaces? It does seem to me that this new sewer is going to be under a lot of pressure, and we just need to make sure we've got as much infiltration as possible without it all going into the sewer or the highway drain.
Just to pick up, sorry, Councillor Coates, it's me now. Just to pick up on your issue regarding potentially the parking spaces being permeable as opposed to the driving space. The parking spaces would still be considered driving space. It won't be adoptable if it is permeable paved, because we do not adopt permeable paved surfaces, because our budget is such that if there is a hole in said permeable paved, a bit of black tarmac will be put in, because that is our current palette that is available to us. In Jenny's report, paragraph 8.34 under drainage, it says the ground conditions are unsuitable for infiltration, so permeable paving won't help anyway.
Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you on that policy issue another time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Can I just remind everyone to speak up a bit or bring the microphone nearer to you? We have a large number of people online and not all of you are as clear as you could be. Right, Councillor Hart.
Thank you. I appreciate that this has been adopted into the local plan, but from everything we heard last time where we had this same discussion and everything we've heard from local speakers today, that is plain and simple just an error of judgment. It shouldn't be. You know, there is insufficient parking in this town, even for the residents and locals who need to come in and park there. That's before you add another layer of huge number of tourist footfall coming also in vehicles into the town. People can't park just to live in their own house. So to take away more parking, it just is mind-bogglingly ridiculous to me that we're even sitting here yet again having the same conversation. There is insufficient parking provision in the town. This is loss of a local community facility or amenity, whatever you want to call it, for existing and future residents. It will impact on neighbouring properties in a disproportionate fashion, and it will have a negative impact further on the local economy. So no, I don't know what else to say really. It's completely inappropriate.
Thank you. Any other speakers? First of all, Alistair, sorry. My apologies.
Thank you. It's just something that members need to be very aware of in terms of when you are determining planning applications, when you're making a judgment on a planning application, you should be determining it in accordance with the adopted policies of the local plan. So as has been pointed out, and this is the reason it is back before committee and it wasn't just taken straight for resolution following the last meeting, the adopted local plan has changed. For this application, for this site, it is now an adopted site, an allocated site in the adopted local plan. So the principle of its loss from car parking to development was signed off by full council as a change to the local plan. So the local plan is a material consideration that you have to consider in determining the application. Now, if there are other site-specific concerns regarding the application, the layout, the impacts on the neighbours, that type of thing, I would suggest that members would be better looking at those matters in detail rather than the principal conflict, because the principal conflict is addressed through the allocation. So it's just something to be aware of for members. Thank you.
Thank you for that advice. Councillor Denton and then Councillor Dimmery.
Thank you. Just a quick question. If it's council-owned land, who would appeal against this decision that we make today if it's not going with officer recommendation?
It's the developer, isn't it?
It would be the applicant that would appeal the decision. So the applicant is Asta.
Just a quick follow-up on that. So what legal rights do they have on the land unless we've gone into some agreement with them? Because it's Somerset Council land.
Oh, carry on.
Yeah. As Jenny said, the applicant is Asda, so they would have the right to appeal a refusal. In terms of any agreement that they have, again, it's not really a material consideration for you, because if you approve the application will be determined in accordance with the policy application, and there'll be a legal agreement that secures the affordable housing, and that will bind on the existing owner and any future owner of the site. And again, if you refuse the application and the application goes to appeal and the appeal is successful, again, that legal agreement will make sure that the terms of any permission are incumbent on any future owner or occupier of the land.
Just a quick one. So I'm just trying to get this right in my head. If and my head doesn't always work with me, but I'm just trying to work out. There must be some agreement already for Somerset to allow some. It's like me saying, well, why don't you just get planning permission on my back garden, and if you get it, then you can go ahead with it. It just feels like it's if it's Somerset Council's land, then we can control that surely, unless there's a legal agreement that we're in already.
Thank you. I'll just come in on this because as Somerset Council, as asset owner, so someone who owns bits of land and sells bits of land onto other people, the planning department is different from the assets team. The assets team will enter into separate agreements with separate developers for separate things. That doesn't negate the need for them to get planning permission. When they get planning permission, what arrangements they've come to, what contracts they've got in place or anything to do with that is nothing to do with us. As the planning team, we have to look at the merits of the scheme that's being proposed. Does it comply with the policies? How would we control it by condition? The one bit we do tend to get slightly excitable about, but only because it's complicated, is that normally there's an agreement that they give over the land before we grant planning permission, because we cannot enter into a legal agreement with ourselves. We are not allowed to. So usually as part of the contractual arrangements that the estates team have, normally it's, post resolution and just before issue of decision, the land exchanges hands at that point. But the details of the land deals is completely separate from the planning department, and we effectively have Chinese walls in place between us because we are not party to those decisions. We are not part of those discussions. We look at it as a decision maker against policy in the proposal.
There's something I think has been missed slightly there, which is that, just to clarify for any members of the public and members of the committee, there is no requirement that somebody has legal interest in land before they submit a planning application. So somebody can submit an application as long as they provide relevant notification for the owner of the land. And how they then proceed after permission is granted is up to civil matter between those particular parties.
But so there'd have to be an agreement at this point, whether it's it wouldn't be in the planning department, it would be in the estate department. There'd have to be something for them to be able to say, well, please go ahead and spend money and do a planning application. And then we'll make the decision after we've got the planning permission about whether we'll sell it to you or not.
It's not our department. There is a team of people that look after the council-owned land that looks at management, maintenance and disposal. So there will be discussions going on within that team with relevant parties for disposal, and they will be making the right choices they think for that site. But ultimately, when it comes to us as the decision maker, we are limited to the policies and the material considerations.
Thank you. I have Councillor Kay wanting to come back. I'm going to allow Martin Dimmery and then first the board.
Thank you.
And also, sorry, Alistair.
The school access onto the car park, is this an emergency access? And if so, will it be obstructed either when the development is complete or during the process of development.
Would somebody, the office like to respond?
Sorry, we were just organising who was going to respond. The access to the school is currently and will remain a service access as opposed to a specific emergency access. And the construction management plan could manage continued use to that service access.
Sorry, what's the difference? I mean, if a fire tender needs to get access to the sort of rear of the school, it can't really stay in the street outside. It would have to get to the back of the school through an access area, presumably, as a service area.
A fire engine will stop and attend a fire where a fire engine needs to stop and attend a fire. So if it needs to stop on the street, it will stop on the street. If it is best served going through that service area, then that's the way it will go, depending on exactly on where the fire is.
I get that, but is it an emergency access area? You're saying it's not an emergency access area. If an ambulance or a fire tender needed access to the school to go into the school grounds, rather than being outside of it, is that an emergency access area?
By that definition, then yes, I would say that it is an emergency access area, much like any access is an emergency access by that definition.
With due respect, I think there's a difference.
Could you bring up the drawing of the site and so you can see appreciate not all councillors know the site or know the school and know exactly what the service area is at the back. And I think that would be helpful for the discussion. I have got you on the list, Hedge.
It's also where they go to, if there's a fire alarm, that's where they take the kids.
Yeah, thank you. We're just waiting to pull up the slides. So I think it's quite important to understand the Right, we've got the drawing up and you can see, and I think the officer explained exactly where the access is if you follow the arrow.
Yeah, so an access to the school will be retained in this area here, and you can see it's been kind of hatched out, so that will be maintained and not obstructed at any time. So that means that vehicles coming up this access, emergency or otherwise, can then access the rear entrance to the school. Just to say as well, there is another access to the school, which I believe is from Archers Way to the east. So that's not the only option. And as Emma was saying, it depends on where the fire is as to which access may be better served to access the school. Yeah.
Okay. You've got an understanding.
I'll stand.
I have Alistair, I think you wanted to say something? Yes, Alistair.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. I think there's a couple of points there just should be noted. There is no person of the public, whether homeowner or anything else, that has a legal right to use any space in this car park. There's nobody says, well, okay, that's my space. It doesn't work that way. It's a council car park for anybody to use. If anybody uses it, that's it. It's up to them, but they don't have a legal right to it, whether it's homeowner or otherwise. Point 2.7, the loss of Norbins Road car park for public use has been fully considered during the process. Limited update concluded the car park was underused. Regardless of what anybody says about that, that's what I have to go by. That's what's in front of me here today. Sorry? I'm sorry. It's okay. Okay. Item 2.8. the Highway Authority had been consulted on this planning application and raised no objection in terms of safety and the impacts of loss in this car park. Further to that, the statutory consultees, which I take from this paperwork I've read through, nobody has any major objection to it. So I know it's okay, there's a lot of things going on here. I'm not going to start going through policy numbers, that's already on here for everybody to read. But by and large, I didn't get to the last meeting about this, and I'm sure you know that, but I'm fully up to speed with this anyway. I personally don't see a problem because I'm going with what's written in front of me here. And as I've already said, the statutory consultees are all on board with this, and nobody has a legal right to any space. It's a public car park. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We now have a couple of people who want to speak again, but before I do so, I think I would like to say something. I was astonished, but one of the public speakers said there wasn't a need for affordable housing in Glastonbury. Housing in Glastonbury is a tragedy in terms of availability for most people. We have a huge waiting list in Somerset, and particularly in Glastonbury. We see people living in far from ideal accommodation in trailers, caravans throughout the town. I think in excess of 200 of them. Now, whatever you say, some of them, maybe it's a lifestyle choice, but for a lot of people, accommodation in Glastonbury is really, really troublesome. And so I just want to put on record that I do not believe that there isn't a need for affordable housing and social housing in Glastonbury. It is really a need, and I'm very disappointed that people have said otherwise. And I said at the last meeting, and please, can the members of the audience please stay quiet? The committee have respected the public speakers when they spoke, so please respect the councillors here this afternoon. What I've said about affordable housing in Glastonbury is something I've said, and I'm on record of saying again and again, is that one shouldn't dismiss. It's very easy if you're a resident, not with a home, to not recognise there are a lot of people homeless in Glastonbury. Thank you for that. I will now go back to Councillor Kay, who wanted to come back again, and then Councillor Hart.
Yeah, just a few things. If this goes through eventually, if not today, possibly on appeal, I don't know. And the roads, I thought the roads, there was an issue about the roads being adopted or not. So I see from what Emma told me that it sounds like the roads are going to be adopted. But will the parking spaces not be part of the estate, if you like, of Asda and their homes? And could we not ask for, that's why I'm asking, could the parking spaces not be permeable paving? I mean, if you think there's nothing to be gained from it because of low infiltration rates, then fine. The second thing was, I want to propose a condition now, if that's appropriate, Chair, that we improve we have the best possible insulation standards given the current building regulations, not the 2010 building regulations, and that we ask for, because this is actually a south-facing site, so we ask for solar panels to go on the front of the roofs.
Okay.
I don't know if that's a condition. If somebody would like to second my condition on the assumption this is eventually going to go through.
Is anyone prepared to second? Councillor
No,
Kay?
Nobody wants.
Councillor Carswell.
Excuse me, I'll second it on that condition.
Oh, have
Okay.
you? Oh, thank you, Simon. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you for that. I've said I will allow Councillor Hart to.
Sorry, can we do the vote on that now rather than when we vote at the end? Because if we vote against this motion, this development today, and it does go to appeal, and then when it goes through, I would like that to be one of the conditions that we have established as a council, if that's possible. Yeah.
I believe we can do that now. Procedurally. Okay, you are proposing a condition. Would you like to repeat it? So you
to improve the insulation standards to the latest building regulations, and to put solar panels on the fronts of the properties. I don't know what the wattage is, 250 or something like that, 250 kilowatts I think is about a minimum of 250 kilowatts to improve energy efficiency of the homes.
Okay, and that proposal seconded by Councillor Carswell. And do you want to make a?
Yeah, so I was just going to say it's not uncommon to see conditions requiring sustainability statements. So that should consider renewables, incorporation of them and installation standards, so they can then be submitted and discharged as a discharge of condition.
Yeah, the problem is with the sustainability standards, sometimes there isn't a way, it's not specific enough, and then they don't deliver them and then nothing happens. So they're sometimes good intentions, but they're not actually a condition.
I think we can condition it, and given the debate from committee and from members, we can make it clear in terms of the aspirations of that condition, and then we would be discharging it against the detail of the wording of that. So when we've done this in other committees, the wording of that condition is usually agreed with the chair and vice chair prior to it being implemented.
So can we vote on that now? And in which case, what would you like to say what the wording should be?
If it's okay, Dawn, what we'd normally do, Councillor Kate, is that, so we've taken a note of what you have said, so we would draft a condition, we'd share it with the chair and the vice chair, and would obviously draft it so that not only does it ensure it delivers the best approach in terms of installation from a construction and building point of view and the provision of solar panels, we would also require those details to be delivered and maintained in perpetuity, such as the solar panel. So we can deal with that, and the process to get approval from the chair and the vice chair gives you some comfort that our drafting will be checked by a member of the committee.
So does that mean we don't need to vote on it today?
I would take it as a vote.
Right.
The wording will need to be, we'll say that in light of the additional advice, the wording in terms of the motion which we're going to talk about will be drafted to approve, to create an appropriate condition which is enforceable. Okay, so the proposal in front of us is to take forward the idea of sustainability. Can you use your
to take forward the idea of a sustainability statement which will incorporate the latest building standards and energy regeneration on site.
Okay. Do we have a understanding, everybody, of what we're being asked to vote on, with Councillor Carswell seconding it? Could I have a show of votes in favour of this, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On that basis, I believe 8. This has been carried. Thank you. Right, we will then move back to the paper in front of us, and I have just one speaker left now, and that is Councillor Hart.
Thank you. There's a few things really. One is I'm slightly confused by Councillor Hendry's comments about no one has a legal right to park in these spaces. I mean, the fact is, I believe we all have a legal right to be able to go about our business in our local towns, to be able to park outside our houses, to be able to park to go to local shops. You know, that's before you bring the tourists in. We all surely have, it's surely acceptable for us to have an expectation to be able to go about our business in our local towns and be able to park our cars, because this is a rural area. This isn't inner city Birmingham where you can walk or catch a bus. It's a rural area. People need to be able to drive in and out of the town and park up and go about their business. So it might not be a legal right to park in those spaces. I think it's a realistic and normal expectation for people to have. As for the chair's comments on affordable housing, obviously all of us are more than aware of the situation with the lack of housing in Glastonbury. A lot of it is not to people with any local connection. Regardless of that, there is a huge deficit of affordable housing. However, it's unfortunate that we can't take the time to go back and listen to the recording of our sadly deceased previous chair, who, like myself, councillor for Glastonbury and made it crystal clear that parking, taking away parking, building on this car park was an inappropriate action. So on that basis, I would like to suggest that we vote down the councillor recommendation on the basis that it's loss of a community facility, primarily that reason. There are other reasons, but primarily on that basis. Thank you.
Thank you. We have then a motion in front of us. Do I have a seconder? Yep.
Just in terms of that reason, obviously it is an allocated site in the recently adopted local plan. So as an allocated site, its loss as a parking area has been accepted and signed off by the council through its allocation in the local plan. The local plan allocation is a material consideration for members. If there is an overriding harm of something to do with the detail of the application, I would suggest that would be the area that members need to focus on if they are really concerned about this site. But the loss of the parking in principle is not something that could be sustained given it's an allocated site.
Thank you. With that advice, Councillor Hart, do you wish to amend the reason for refusal?
Well, I mean, my reason is loss of community facility, but as I've mentioned before, the negative impact on the economy and the impact on neighbouring properties.
Does anyone wish to add anything to that? Councillor Denton.
Well, I think the school as well, the impact on the school, I think that's quite important considering this is an access that they need. So.
Sorry, I was incorporating the school into a neighbouring property, but yeah, maybe we should specify that there is a school.
So just for clarity, you are refusing this application on the basis of the impact on surrounding properties, including the school?
And negative impact on the local economy.
And the impact on the local economy.
And are you saying we just simply can't put the parking one in there because it's been adopted into the local plan? Although I honestly don't understand how it can have been, but anyway.
Would you like to give advice on where we stand?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of if members are recommending refusal on the application, we just need to be really clear what the harm is. So from what I've heard from Councillor Hart, it's impact on the neighbouring properties, impact on the school. Can we be specific? What is that impact on the neighbouring properties and on the school as a result of the development in the layout and the form that it currently is? And in terms of impact on economy, you know, the argument members are making is it's the loss of the public car park, which would affect potentially tourism coming in, which potentially impacts on economy. It is a designated site, so that loss has been accepted through the adoption in the local plan. So I would suggest it's a weak limb, but if it is added to everything else once we actually specify what the harm is, because we need to, if it is appealed, we do need to be defending the actual reason behind the harm.
Okay, while you think about that, Councillor Hart, I
don't need to think about it. Like, people need to be able to park in order to go to these shops and businesses in the high street. There is insufficient parking in the town. I don't care if the local plan has deemed that there isn't. There is. There's insufficient parking in the town. Yeah, I'd love to actually be able to pull the figures on the amount of parking fines given to people in Glastonbury, because you have to park anywhere because you cannot find a space to park in. You can't even park to go into the doctor. Okay, you know, it is just, I don't understand how this has been allowed to happen. It has happened. So now we're at the point, so the impact on the economy is, yes, people need to park in order to go to the local businesses, shops.
Councillor Hart, you've made the point and you're now repeating yourself.
Well, because you keep asking me to give you more detail. I don't really think I want to give you more detail.
You were notified of this.
Can I take some of your colleagues' comments? First of all, Councillor Dimery and then Councillor
I'd like to support the application in view of the obstruction to the school premises for parents, emergency vehicles and the general obstruction of traffic in the area.
Okay, so you want to add to that the the proposal has an impact and you're spelling it out to the school that it affects emergency access.
And parents' access.
And parents' access. Okay, thank you. It's helpful. Councillor Kay.
I'm just going back to the parameters here. I've got two in my area that I didn't want to see developed. One used to be a nursery. It was employment land. There was, as far as I could see, a backroom deal done at about the same time as this one, where Somerset Council got a housing provider involved, and suddenly that housing provider had the land or had an option on the land, and it's gone ahead. I didn't want to see that happen, but it did, and I had to run with it because I couldn't turn the clock back. So I'm just explaining to you again that this is the parameter. It really, we can't do it. It's actually been officially adopted. The second thing is, and I had another one as well that was an industrial site, another one that's now 25 houses, nearly finished, both of them nearly finished. So the thing is that we were told, I had emails that came into my inbox that said, you know, you're one of the divisions that's affected. Have a look at this. So sorry to go back again, but this is an argument that's already been lost. And so I just feel that if we reject it on these grounds, and I'm very sympathetic, I'm pretty annoyed myself about what's happened in my own division. But if we reject it today, it is going to go to appeal, and we are going to lose. And that's
we don't know that we're going to lose. We don't have a crystal ball.
Excuse me, one at a time, please.
Okay. All right. That's my view. Yeah.
I
don't like it either, but that's
okay.
That's the parameters we have to work with.
Thank you, Councillor Hendry.
Thank you again, Chair. Just like to point something out here. Burnham-on-Sea, I know we're not discussing Burnham-on-Sea, but Burnham-on-Sea's got 3 car parks in comparison to 5 here. Highbridge has got 1, so accumulate the whole thing together. It's 4 car parks. They cope perfectly well. Councillor Kay is absolutely on the money. What she said there, sometimes you have to just do something and run with it and accept progress. I'm not singling out this particular car park, but just you have to go with progress. And if you said no to something like this and no there, and you finish up with nothing at all, nothing moves forward. I understand it can be difficult for people. I understand, but that's the whole country over. Things get built, things move on, and people make other arrangements. So I go with Councillor Helen Kay on this, and I personally don't have a major problem with this because it's progress, things move on. And the members who are there, members of the public, by the way, just have to move on, accept it because they've got no legal right to be there anyway.
Okay, thank you for that. We have a motion in front of us from Councillor Hart. We're trying to get the wording right to actually have something which will stand up. And you've had a chance to think further. What is your proposal now?
It's the same thing I told you my proposal was before. Impact on neighbouring properties. The school is a neighbouring property, so impact on all neighbouring properties, negative impact on local economy. It's like obvious why taking parking away gives you a negative impact on the local economy. If you are telling me, which I believe you are, we cannot and should not, and it would be a bad idea legally to include loss of community facility in terms of parking, leave that one out. But otherwise, that is my proposal. And, you know, progress, like this is not progress. People have to have somewhere to park.
Okay, you've made the point. Can we have a response from the officer? Proposal from Councillor Hart. Is this now one which will stand up so that we can?
I know you hate it when I do this, and I'm really sorry. In terms of impact on neighbouring properties, can we be specific? What is it? Is it the size and scale? Excuse me, but I'm trying really hard to listen to what the members are saying to assist them in coming up with an appropriate recommendation, which we can defend if we need to.
Can we please, I ask the members of the public, we are trying very hard to get this right.
In terms of impact on neighbours, when we are looking to defend anything through appeal, the inspector will want to know what the impact is. Is it the size and scale of the dwellings? Is it overshadowing? Is it overbearing? Is it overlooking? That is the information that I need
from you as the committee if there is an adverse impact on the neighbouring properties.
Excuse me, if you continue to interrupt this meeting, we'll ask you to leave. We must allow people to speak uninterrupted. Thank you.
So can we add overbearing and overlooking then, please?
Thank you. So the reason I've got for objection from the committee, so tell me if I've heard this correct, is that there are concerns regarding the obstruction through this site, through the development towards the school, which would limit access for the school and potential fire evacuation and impact on neighbouring properties and the school in terms of it being overbearing and overlooking.
Okay, you content with that, Councillor Hart? I have a seconder for the motion from someone. Was it you, Councillor Dimmery, or Councillor Denton?
I will do. I made a point, but I didn't actually second. I thought it had already been seconded by Dawn.
Has it? My apologies. So we have a seconder there. Okay, can we just have one conversation going on? On that basis, I will ask you to read it out once more, and then we will take it to a vote.
So the concern that members are raising is regarding the obstruction through the development of this site to the school and the surrounding area, and the adverse impact on the neighbouring properties through overlooking and the development being overbearing and overdominant.
Yep. Okay, could I have a show of hands then? This is the motion in front of us. Who's supporting it, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that correct? Do we have any against the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. I will vote on this occasion. Okay, including myself, it's 5. And then how many are abstaining? And 2 abstentions. So the results are refused. Okay, thank you very much indeed, everybody. Right, we've come to the end of that. Can we just read that figures out again as people are looking? We had 6 in favour, 5 against and 2 abstentions, just for total clarity. Okay, the officer recommendation is refused, and I suggest that we have a 5-minute comfort break before we move on to item 7. Sorry, item 6, my apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, can we now return to the meeting? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please can we call conversations to a halt and return to the meeting? We have a long agenda in front of us and you've had a very generous 5 minutes, please. Okay. Well, I'd rather wait for Dawn knowingly. Can everyone return to their seats, please? Thank you. We're still missing some people. Right. I'm waiting for our legal advisor and one other. And also we have a couple of councillors missing. And they will not be able to speak on this motion, this application now, unless they return to the room.
Just want to Councillor Clare, I've got to make a statement. When we
Okay.
if we get onto it, because it we might not get onto it.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. We have Councillor Denton and Councillor Sully not in the room, and I think that we need to, when we wait for one other officer, and then we will start the meeting. And on that basis, they won't be able to be involved in the conversation.
Councillor White, I'm afraid there was a queue for the toilets, but members of the public wanting to go, and their councillors had to wait. So they're now in the toilets.
Okay, thank you for that advice.
I'm sorry, you lot, but
copies in hand. Okay, thank you very much indeed, everyone. We now have the final councillors in the room, and we will now move on to item 6. And I will ask the officer to provide us with a position on this. And this is Ros Eastman.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the second of the applications that's returning to members today. And just as a reminder, this is the application in Evercreech for outline planning permission with all matters reserved apart from access for the erection of 40 dwellings. So we are returning this application to committee today. It was originally considered at August committee, and then shortly after committee, but before the decision was issued, additional information was submitted by the applicant team. And that included a technical odour report, as well as a development area plan. As the reason members resolved to refuse permission was in part because of insufficient information regarding residential amenity, we felt that this additional information should be reviewed by members. So if I can just remind you of the August resolution, which was that the planning application be refused contrary to officer recommendation due to the loss of agricultural land and also the impact on amenity from the nearby pig farm. So just as a reminder for members, the application site is just north of Evercreech. The yellow star on the plan shows the location of the site. Properties immediately to the north are not part of the pig farm. That's the properties double, if you like, that is the pig farm. So what are we asking you today? So in August, officers concluded that the development is considered contrary to the development plan overall. The National Planning Policy Framework is a material consideration, and paragraph 11D states that permission should be granted for development unless the harms of that development significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. And in this case, officers considered that the adverse impacts do not significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. So it was recommended that permission should be granted subject to conditions and obligations. So today we are asking you, taking into account the additional information submitted and presented in the update report, together with the original report and other relevant material planning considerations, does committee consider that the harm caused by the development, as identified in August, continues to significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the proposal? So that's the key question that we're here to ask you today, members. As a reminder, as I said before, the scheme seeks outline permission for 40 new homes, which would be a benefit in and of themselves. Of those new homes, 30% would be affordable, and the tenure split would be 80-20 in line with policy requirement as set out in the adopted plan. Other things that would be included in the Section 106 obligation include contributions towards hospital improvements, general local infrastructure capacity improvements, the hospital, GP surgery provision, education contributions. And I double checked, as I think there was some discussion about the education contribution previously, and in the consultation response from the education team, it's specifically noted as being to support expansion projects at Acorns Preschool and at Evercreech Primary School, as well as to enhance SEN provision locally. The development would be required to provide biodiversity net gain. It would deliver phosphates mitigation. We discussed previously the off-site footpath connection. There would be drainage provision management, as well as open space and play delivery and contributions towards the provision of a mugger. And then finally, you've got travel planning and monitoring fees listed. And the proposal would be subject to conditions as previously reported, but with the an additional plan included noting the area where development should not take place. So before I run through the general application, I just wanted to run you through the two specific topic areas that are addressed in the update report. First of all, best and most versatile agricultural land. The NPPF talks about planning policies and decisions contributing to and enhancing natural and local environment by recognising the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside and seeking to protect best and most versatile agricultural land. And then the connected footnote says that where significant development of agricultural land is demonstrated to be necessary, areas of poorer quality land should be used first, essentially. So significant in this context is where a site is of more than 20 hectares. That's the definition that is used by DEFRA and Natural England in terms of considering when they would look to get involved. Agricultural land is a finite resource, but the subject site is grade 3 and extends to less than 2 hectares. So we don't know if it's A or B. There's been no specific study undertaken, and so we have to assume grade 3. But as a site of less than 2 hectares, the question in relation to best and most versatile agricultural land is whether the loss of this small parcel of agricultural land is outweighed by those benefits of the development, the 40 new homes, 30% affordable support for local infrastructure enhancements. And then in relation to the concerns around odour impact and the impact of potential odour from the pig farm on the development, we have had this plan submitted by the applicant team, and the yellow area on the plan shows the composite of 5 years of predicted emissions. So looking back at wind patterns, where would the odour from the pig farm disperse to across the local area? The maximum projected area where an odour level of 3 exposure units would be experienced. So if I can just explain what an odour emission unit is. So as you would expect, there are some odours that are pleasant and some odours that are unpleasant. So there is a lower threshold for an unpleasant odour than for a pleasant odour. So the indicative odour exposure criteria for a wastewater treatment plant is 3 odour exposure units, and the odour exposure for a bakery or a brewery, which is a much more pleasant smell, is 6 odour exposure units. And within that, 1 to 5 exposure units is considered recognisable, 5 is a faint odour, and then 10 is a distinct odour. So normal background odours from traffic, grass, etc. is between 5 and 40 odour exposure units. So taking that into account, if we have another look at this yellow area, this is the area within which you might get 3 odour exposure units of smell from the pig farm. And the development on the layout that we had submitted, that odour exposure area comes close to, but not onto, the built form of the development. So when you come out of your front door onto the road in front of these properties, you would be at 3 odour exposure units, but no more than that. So it's a we just go back to here, it would be recognisable, less than a faint odour. So you would get smell, but not very much. So on receipt of this additional information, technical information, we consulted our environmental health colleagues who reviewed the information that had been submitted and drew the clear conclusion that they have no objections to the planning application. So the question that we are asking you in relation to, sorry, the font's a bit small on this one, is do the amenity impacts of the proposed development significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the proposal? So in considering where you come down on this issue, we wanted to remind you of the comments that Evercreech Parish Council had made previously. You've got a report pack that has all of the comments that have been made previously. They are all still able to be taken into account. They raised issues around the settlement limit, employment opportunities and sustainable travel. You've also got the report pack that identifies the lack of objection from our technical and statutory consultee colleagues in those regards. In conclusion, I just want to run through the highlights of the application again for you. So that was the information about why we're here and the questions that we're asking you today. But just as a reminder, this is the red line for the application. We have this shaped like a little Scotty dog in the centre of the screen. And then a proposed layout plan, which would see suds drainage infrastructure to the south of the site, and then 40 houses accommodated throughout the site. It is only access that is being approved at this stage. So the fact that the layout that we have been given is close to the yellow area doesn't mean that that's the layout that would ultimately come forward. The site access would be taken onto the main road and is considered acceptable by my highways colleagues. There is pavement on the far side, but a footpath link is proposed on the near side of the highway as well. So we just have some images around the site, as I say, because it's an outline application. That's the technical drawing of the footpath link. And then this is an overview of the facilities in Evercreech, which again, just as a reminder, is a primary village in the development plan. So I think that this is the surface water drainage scheme, again, showing both suds drainage pond, some crated storage under the carriageway, and various sources. So you've got the overland flow and the routing and so on there. So again, it's an outline application, but this demonstrates that there is both a foul and surface water drainage scheme that would work for the site. So before I hand over to members to continue your debate, I just wanted to note that I have had one new representation received that has raised no new material planning considerations, and we have also received a petition with 300 signatures on it that calls on members to reject any attempt to bring the application back prematurely unless there are clear and material reasons to justify it, to defend the integrity of the August decision, and to protect Evercreech's village boundaries. So again, just to recap, the question that we are looking at today is whether or not the harms that you identified previously are considered to still significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits of the proposal, such that planning permission should be granted. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Is this the point of order?
You be the judge, please, Chair.
Is this the point of order? Sorry, I didn't catch that.
You can judge that if you tell me. I just wanted to note that what the officer was just saying about getting responses should be within the context of there was no time for people to get a response in. There was days. So yeah, so that was given, but there was a very short window for people to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we recognise that from your last comment. Thank you. Right, if the officers don't wish to add anything to that, I would like to move on to the public speakers, and I have a number in front of me. Can I remind everyone it's 3 minutes each? And the first one is Fletcher Robinson from CPRE.
We can't find any instance in the UK of a housing estate being approved within 50 metres of a pig farm housing 600 pigs. Please note that a farmer would be refused permission under permitted development rules for a pig farm of any size within 400 metres from housing. Rubix now claim that the odour concentration area stops a few feet from the housing and that, quote, only the public open space on the site will be impacted, unquote. However, in their earlier version, they said the potential for odour effects is significant for residential receptors located in closest proximity to the farm. In our view, your previous refusal decision should stand for these reasons. One, both versions of the odour assessment rely on the prevailing wind direction, which, as you've seen, is shown with a big arrow. However, in the first report, Rubix admitted that if the wind changes direction, which it frequently does, then all houses across the site will be impacted, not just the houses in closest proximity. Two, odour is not the only pollutant from a pig farm. Grunts and squealing keep people awake at night. No noise assessment has been submitted with this planning application. Furthermore, pig farms emit ammonia, which can cause respiratory problems, and also bioaerosols, which are dust particles laden with microorganisms which can remain elevated for up to 250 metres downwind. The more pigs, the greater the pollution from these various sources. Three, the introduction of residential development will inevitably lead to statutory complaints, which could jeopardise a long-established business. Good planning decisions avoid such land use conflicts. In conclusion, there are good planning grounds for refusal. One, policy DP7, design and amenity of new development, requires proposals to demonstrate that they provide a satisfactory environment for future occupants. Policy DP8, environmental protection, requires proposals to demonstrate that they don't give rise to unacceptable adverse impacts on residential amenity. These DP7 and DP8 policy requirements have not been demonstrated. The Council has a clear duty to ensure a satisfactory environment for new housing. Please note also that the Environmental Protection Officer didn't consider noise or ammonia or particles emissions. And lastly, MPPF paragraph 193 says planning decisions should ensure that new developments can be integrated effectively with nearby existing businesses. That clearly would be a major problem in this case.
Thank you. And thank you for taking time to come today. We then move on to Barry O'Leary, a resident attending online. Is Barry available?
I'm here, Ros. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, Barry.
Yeah, I won't turn my camera on as the internet's quite poor where I am today. But if I'm okay to proceed, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
You have 3 minutes from now, Barry.
Thank you. So I'm starting to lose count of how many times that we've seen applications being submitted for this land literally crawl its way back into the planning trough. The last time the committee looked at this, it was quite rightly refused. The whistle had blown full time, the result to be recorded. But here we are again, the developer literally trotting back in, hoping nobody had noticed them sneaking back onto the pitch after the refs gone home to change the result. Chair, if planning worked like that, we'd all now be living in castles. Now, don't get me wrong, local villagers have nothing against progress, but progress doesn't mean pushing past the same people or pushing the boundary with the planning rules until the result suits whoever squeals the loudest. Importantly, because the officer never actually issued you a decision notice, the committee is perfectly entitled to add further reasons to refusal, of which there are many. The biggest, in my view, a failure of local consultations. Residents weren't engaged, they were ignored. The so-called new plans that have been presented, Let's be honest, they're not plans at all. They're pamphlets and paperwork, a desktop exercise designed to push through, disregarding any local feedback. The facts have not changed here. The site is still in the wrong place for housing development. The infrastructure simply isn't there. The secondary school places don't exist, and they are certainly not within walking distance. Finally, local village children will continue to be sent miles away on a daily scenic tour of Somerset before they even get to their education for secondary schooling. If this is what sustainable looks like, someone needs to check their dictionary. Somerset's own corporate plan, published in 2023, promises to protect Somerset's unique natural environment and rural character. It pledges to put local voices at the heart of decision making and boasts that sustainable growth must be there to meet community needs. Well, Chair, if this scheme, is this what the scheme is to look like in practice, there's a danger that the whole council corporate plan isn't worth the paper it is printed on. It could just be lipstick on a pig. Let's be clear. Somerset Council was elected on a promise to defend our landscape, heritage and the people who live here. This is far more than just a squabble about houses and what goes where, but it is about trust in democracy. Because people out there in Evercreech, Pressley, Ditchett, Shepton are looking at this and wondering how on earth are we back here? And often when residents see that persistence pays off, not for them, but for the people with planning consultants and glossy presentations, they lose faith in the system entirely. So this application flies in the face of everything the council wants to stand for. It contradicts the council's own strategy. It ignores the local plan. It undermines the promise to build a vibrant, thriving Somerset rooted in agricultural heritage. Approving the application would be like writing "We love local farming" on the front of the plan, only then to bulldoze the pigsty at the back. Now, I know the officers have worked hard on the reports, but there comes a point when good officers are being asked to make bad cases look plausible. No matter how neatly you slice this, you cannot turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. So I ask you please to refuse it.
Thank you. Right, thank you for finding time to join and attend today. Right, we'll move on to the next speaker, which is Paul Davis.
Chair, I'd like to point out there was a petition of 306 signatures, which Barry O'Leary had organised and passed it through to me, and it came very late in the day, but you have that in front of you. I know you can't refer back to it, but it adds strength to the statement that he was giving. In August, I outlined how this site was subject to numerous unsuccessful attempts at development with odour and amenity issues emanating from the Water Lane pig farm. They all proved a significant factor at those times and actually led to a refusal for residential land adjacent at the Grove in January 2014. Despite this new odour assessment being submitted, the plan still conflicts with the NPPF paragraphs 191, 193 and 194 in respect to the pig farm, as outlined in the report from Salmon Planning Company, which also outlines how DP7 should lead to the plan's dismissal. In particular, this development could irrevocably jeopardise the pig farm, which has been established there for 60 years, a working farm maintained to Red Tractor standards, capable of holding 600 pigs. The new submission outlines a multi-tool approach utilising a desk-based quality of odour risk assessment, a review of complaint history, and a total 4 sniff test visits. A map has been provided, as you've seen. No significant odour issues emanating in the farm have been identified, really. No complaints. The Environmental Protection Officer, therefore, has reinforced his previous statement, all is satisfactory. But at the time of all this, there were no pigs still on the site. There's no pigs when the sniff tests were done. Water Lane pigs do smell and make noise, and you agreed this in August. I've smelt and I've heard them squealing day and night, especially during hot summers, with little or no wind. I live at Bridge Close for 30 years, and that's allegedly outside the yellow zone. I do not choose to live any nearer the pig farm, and conflict with new residents in proposed development in the pig farm over such nuisance appears inevitable. There's no complaint history at present, but mark my words, there will be. Pig owners are notoriously difficult to manage and control, subject to unpredictable factors, such as seasonal changes in weather and wind. Therefore, an assessment without pigs on site is flawed. To refuse this application due to unacceptable amenity conflicts and likely impact on existing farm business, as originally recommended, in a past and conflicting EPO's report in September 24 remains valid, and suggested mitigating strategies to overcome complaints by putting in place landscaping boundaries and upgrades to restart agricultural activities are just not compatible with NPPF paragraph 194 or DP8. If this application is allowed, a disproportionate number of houses will be built in the village, nearly 3 times the local plan projections until 2029. Overall, the tilted balance just doesn't weigh it up, doesn't take into consideration the cumulative impact of our green core brownfield site and the overstretched infrastructure of the village, or the need to protect a valuable food resource, a working farm, which needs to remain a viable enterprise. This development offers a foothold into open countryside, outside the village settlement, for further expansion, speculation, which will ruin the character of the village forever. Strength of public opinion is very, very much against it, as proved by the petition.
Thank you, and thank you very much indeed, Mr Davis. And thank you for your time today. We now move on to Patrick Wisher.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Patrick Wilshire, the owner of Watery Lane Pig Farm. From the start, I can say how pleased I was with the decision of the council in August to refuse this application. It was the right decision. Therefore, I am disappointed to be back here again, especially when the main issue seems to be odours coming from my pig unit at the farm. Pigs have always played an important part of the farm's operations, both as a provider of income and supporting the beef produced on the farm by producing waste that is a good organic fertiliser to produce grass to feed the beef cattle. Both production systems are vital for home-produced food and saving on imports. Both the importance of the pig unit, that has always been kept in condition when any repairs needed were dealt with quickly. The farm is not in disrepair, and I take exception to the statement to that effect in Ward Armstrong's odour report. Whilst they do not have pigs on site at present, it can be brought back into production at any time. I view the farm as a valuable asset, and when I decide the time is right, it is my full intention to restock with 600 pigs. As I pointed out previously, if outline planning is approved for 40 houses within such close proximity to my pig unit, the council will be inundated with complaints from residents regarding odour, fly nuisance and noise. Although best keeping standards are practiced, there is no getting away from the fact that pigs do give off strong odour and can be very noisy as they squabble and squeal day and night. All these issues will have an adverse effect on people's enjoyment of life. I understand that at the least meeting this was deemed unreasonable. The revised odour report was simply a desktop modelling exercise and does not have much bearing on actual conditions with the pigs in situ. It is weather conditions that determines the strength of odour and the direction of the stench flow. And because of global warming, we are getting longer hot, dry spells with a constant strong breeze from the northeast that will blow across the proposed development, carrying the odour with it. Unfortunately, this could not be considered at the time the odour model was used for the assessment, so this desktop exercise is not reliable. If the site is developed, I can reiterate my real concern that complaints from the residents will escalate. I remember 10 years ago when all this started, I was visited by a representative of the company that carried out a suitability assessment. We were standing in the pig unit looking out over the site, and I asked him if he would like to live there. He shook his head and walked away, as I am sure most people would. The pig unit is a valuable asset and a finite resource. It would be impossible to obtain planning permission for such a project now. Therefore, it must be kept ongoing and viable, which is why I will continue to maintain the pig buildings in good working order for future use and the next generation. It is a valuable food production site and must not be jeopardised or obliterated in any way. The site proposed for housing development is totally unsuitable.
Can you wind up, please?
Should be refused. Thank you for the opportunity to express my objections.
Thank you. And thank you very much indeed for taking time to come and talk to us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right, we now move on to the parish council representative from Evercreech, Councillor Bethan Stanley. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for letting me speak at very short notice. As has already been noted, it was very short notice. And as such, I would like to flag that we weren't able to have an extraordinary meeting, but a number of us have been directly approached either in the street or by phone call by people from the village to raise, in every case, objections and concerns about this development, even within that short space of time. And the petition has already been mentioned. However, speaking directly as a response from the parish council, firstly, we would like all the comments previously raised in the 2024 and 2025 objections to still stand, which you will have seen. The main 3 points, pigs, which have been talked at in quite some detail, but we would again point out 3 previous applications all refused due to concerns about odour. It still lies within the odour exclusion zone, nothing has changed. As has been noted, we would suggest there is very limited value for the odour assessment report being carried out whilst pigs were not on site, and that the potential noise of 600 pigs within 15 metres of the proposed residency seems excessive. And again, we would point out if it was the other way around and a pig farm application was being proposed in such a proximity to a residential space, we suggest this wouldn't even be considered at this point. Equally, it is outside the designated settlement boundary. It's on a green field and an agricultural land, and it should be strictly controlled. The LLP2 for Evercreech states that we've had significant development already and we haven't had to identify any further allocated spaces for development. But despite this, we already have several other spaces which have been identified potentially, including a brownfield site in the centre of the village, which proposes potentially a mixed residential employment use. And finally, we feel that the infrastructure is not there even in outline proposals. It won't integrate properly into the rest of the village and is not safely reached between the 2 proposed areas. There are no cycle paths which exist. Everyone is going to need to drive because all of you will know from rural areas what public transport is like. And the current proposed footpaths are actually too narrow and not compliant with the 2-metre standard safety required. The only way that it would be possible to do this would to actually make Prestley Road, the B3081, narrower. And this is already a massively congested road. It's the main thoroughfare in and out. We have not just cars, but agricultural vehicles. We have HGVs, all of which going through. And as the parish council, we strongly feel that there's a potential for a really serious collision if this was actually to be considered. The entrance issues, which have been part of the issue, we feel has issues with visibility displays and limited capacity for large vehicles such as refuse vehicles to be turning. And finally, we feel that the area itself, that particular area, is prone to flooding. So the proposed reliance partially on overwhelmed Victorian sewers, which is part of the village infrastructure, is just not realistic. So for these reasons outlined and others in the previous applications, which you'll have seen many are noted, we would like the decision to be upheld and to reject the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for coming. And the final speaker on this application is Morgan Rise from the Community Comms Partnership on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. My name is Morgan Rise and I'm speaking on behalf of Rubik Strategic. As members will recall, this application for up to 40 new homes at Prestley Road was previously considered by this committee in August. At that time, members raised concerns primarily about the potential for odour from the nearby pig farm and the loss of agricultural land. Since then, as Officer set out, further detailed information has been submitted to address those specific concerns. As you will see from your report, following this information being submitted, it was deemed appropriate for you to consider this information in full. Turning first to odour, which was a main concern raised at the last committee and the impact that odour would have on the potential future occupants. A detailed odour impact assessment has now been submitted, which built on the earlier qualitative study. This impact assessment report uses industry standard dispersion modelling based on 5 years of meteorological data and topographical information for the site. It provides a quantitative evidence-led assessment of potential odour exposure. Importantly, the modelling demonstrates that odour levels across the developable parts of the site fall well below the legal thresholds, the accepted thresholds, which is the accepted level for residential amenity. The only area that marginally exceeds this threshold is a small section in the northwestern corner which does not contain designated housing space. This evidence has been independently reviewed by the environmental health team at this council, which was identified in the officer's report. They conclude that the proposal fully complies with the NPPF and the local plan policies DP7 and DP8, which require development to safeguard amenity and minimise pollution. The second reason raised by the committee was the loss of agricultural land. Officers have clarified that the site comprises less than 2 hectares of Grade 3 land, which is not classed as significant development under national definitions. The NPPF encourages the use of poorer quality land where possible, and in this case, the modest scale and strong locational sustainability of the site clearly justify its use for much needed housing. The benefits of new homes, including 30% affordable housing, biodiversity net gains, sustainable drainage and public open space, do outweigh the limited and non-significant loss of agricultural land. As highlighted previously, the site sits directly on the edge of the primary village of Evercreech, within walking distance of key facilities, including the school, shop and employment areas. This remains a sustainable, well-designed proposal that responds positively to the housing need in Evercreech and more widely for Somerset. The proposal also includes a comprehensive SUD strategy, which has been endorsed by the lead local flood authority. It ensures that controlled discharge rates of just 3.5 litres per second, well within Wessex Water's confirmed capacity of 10 litres per second. The drainage system has been designed for all events up to a 1 in 100 year storm, plus 45% climate change allowance. The application before you returns to you because Rubik Strategic took seriously the committee's previously identified concerns and worked proactively with officers to resolve them. The additional odour assessment provides overwhelming evidence to refute the amenity concerns, and both officers and environmental health are clear that there are no remaining technical or policy reasons for refusal. So therefore, we respectfully ask you to support the officer's recommendation and grant permission for this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Rice, and thank you for coming this afternoon. We'll now, that's the end of the public speakers. We'll now move this to members of the public to talk, and the first person I have on the list is Rob Reid.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be as polite as I can about this. I'm going to use the word disappointed. I'm disappointed not just that it's come back to us, but how it's come back to us. We were told by the legal advisor quite clearly that this was given the minimum amount of notice possible. That is disappointing. The parish council and the local community have not had time to have their say on it. In itself, it's a good reason to defer this for another month, so they allow them to do so. But the question, going on to the application itself, the question is, why is it back? We refused it, not because we needed information, additional information about the pig unit. We refused it because the pig unit was there. Simple as. So we should refuse it again. But even if we take into account the new odour report that's put before us, as we've heard, it's flawed. It shows complete proof that if you take an odour test when there's no pigs there, it's going to pass. Whoopsie-doo, it tells us nothing at all. And there is also another fatal flaw, which has not yet to be brought up, and it's a total lack of understanding of farming practices. The measurements on here are taken from the nearest shed, 80 metres. The simple fact is, in winter, these sheds are cleared out of manure and it is piled up, ready to be spread when the fields dry out in the summer. That will be a lot nearer than 80 metres, and it says the wind is only going from the southwest. We have north winds in the winter, Chairman, quite a lot. This odour report is absolutely flawed. As the CPRE man said, there is no noise report. Pigs make an awful lot of noise. Why not? It's fatally flawed. If this was passed, those houses next to the pig site, they would be totally uninhabitable, totally unsaleable. It is of no benefit to anybody to pass this as it is. And I can simply propose that we stick with our original decision to refuse it. Hopefully the applicants can come forward, talk to the pig man. We need, if houses are going to be there, we've got to get an agreement there. And I've also, whilst we're on it, I've got to bring up safe routes to school again, as I did in the August meeting. The proposal then was to narrow Pressley Road so we can have a narrow pavement outside the development to go towards the school. Not safe. I cannot vote for anything that will put our children's lives at risk. We know very well, as I pointed out, there is an alternative safe route to school through a path at the top of the site. I'm not aware of any plan by the development to bring this forward. I just cannot see that we can do anything but stick with our original decision, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a motion from you?
You do.
Okay, could I have a proposer? In Chair Sally, we'll allow other people to talk, but I would like to have that on the table. Okay, and the proposal is to go with refusal. And the grounds for that, please?
Well, these houses will be uninhabitable, Chair, simple as. I mean, you could put that in any sort of legal term you like.
Okay, I think we probably need to strengthen that if you want it to stand up. Claire Sully.
Thank you, Chair. Legally, we can bring applications back with additional information, but that doesn't mean we should. And I think we should have a review of bringing applications back and what we have experienced this afternoon. It's 2 hours now gone.
Could I interrupt you? I just really wanted to understand where you're going to second it and where you're going to amend the reason why at this stage.
I need to say what I need to say, I'm afraid. I need to say. So I do think we need to review bringing back applications and the notice period. Notwithstanding, returning this application today has undermined our democratic mechanism. Even when that was pointed out prior to today, that was ignored. Do the harms outweigh the benefits? Yes, they do. We need to preserve our agricultural industry that has huge challenges. Speaking to local people over the years, there are huge challenges with the future of the farming industry in the area, in the local area, in the division that I represent, succession. I've not spoken to the farmer about this, but I do wonder what that succession would be for future generations. And what I do understand is that the business needs, the farmer wants to preserve the business. So do the harms outweigh the benefits? There's a harm to a local business, as that's the local economy now and the future. The business was there first. We're talking about 80 metres, right? But I've got a couple of questions before, sorry, to answer the Chair's question about the refusal, what why we can refuse this. But my question is, around the 80 metres, are you fixing, was around fixing the pigs, right? Saying that it was 80 metres. How do you get 80 metres? When I walked on the land, it wasn't 80 metres. So where are you measuring the pigs? In the report, how many pigs? So we've talked about up to 600. So I'd like to know the technicalities of the report. How many pigs and where were the pigs in the modelling? And in terms of refusal, DP7, DP8 have not demonstrated the satisfactory environment for housing, harm to local business and local economy. Those are the reasons I'd like to add to Rob, if Rob's happy.
Okay.
So my question is, how many pigs was the modelling based on, and where were the pigs? Because the farmer has every right to move those pigs around.
Okay, so you've added to the question of the reasons for the motion: impact on the local business, impact on farming generally, and harm to the local economy. For the three.
And also, Chair, DP7, DP8 has not been demonstrated as satisfactory environment for housing.
Okay, satisfactory. Right. I think the officers have that. Ros, do you want to respond to any of the questions, particularly the ones around the survey?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to remind myself of how the dispersion modelling was done. But there are buildings on the site that have a capacity for pigs. There are industry standards in terms of the amount of odour that a pig would give off, and then some calculations were undertaken. I mean, inevitably, as we've been discussing, it's very difficult to model the odour impact of pigs without there being any pigs on site. So what has happened is that we've got a best case technical model that's been undertaken by some specialist consultants, people who spend their time undertaking environmental health consultancy work. So we've got technical experts who've produced a model that has been put before your experts in our environmental health colleagues, who have concluded that the findings of that work are acceptable. I just wanted to note as well that when we initially consulted environmental health on the application, it was open to them to raise any concerns that they had about anything within their sphere of influence. So noise, odour, lighting. I'm trying to think what else environmental health would raise. They didn't raise any concerns around noise. They did raise concerns around odour. And that's why the focus from the applicant team has been on the odour that would arise from the site. So it is in the application documents. I can find it and come back to you shortly if the debate is still ongoing around how the dispersion modelling has been undertaken. But I do need to just read it to do that.
Okay. Can I just come back, Chair, just to quickly say then, I think it is important to know where the pigs are being placed in the modelling and how many pigs, because I think that would change the result. If science is going to be used and calculations have got to be used, then we need to know those parameters and to ensure it's not being skewed just to influence a decision that's really important to the local community and a local business.
Okay, thank you for that, Claire. I've got, I think, Councillor Henry and Barry Clark as well, the next two speakers. Alistair.
Thank you, Chair. The owner of the pig farm, I thank you for to speak to us. That's extremely kind of you. Thank you for that. Just a couple of points on that. The farm was first, as pointed out, before any houses. So anybody who wants to live in any house would see there's a pig farm there. So it's their remit if they want to actually live there. Nobody's forcing that on anybody. That's the way it is. If they want to buy a house, rent a house, it's there. So on that basis, you have to move forward and accept it. They're the same problem with the cellophane factory if you go to Bridgewater. However, moving on from that, highways, I believe, is standing advice. No problem with that whatsoever. Everything moves on from there. Somebody mentioned about pavements, or the lack of pavements apparently being a bit unsafe to walk to the school. Well, that asks its own question. What do the people or children do who already live there at this moment in time? If the pavements are unsafe, then the kids who are there, or the parents, shouldn't be walking down them. So it's okay to say, well, there's a lack of pavements, there's no pavements. What happens to people there already? That's the way it is. You just move on with that. The odour apparently has been scientifically looked at, and apparently everything's acceptable. If they've looked at it, they're educated people who know what they're talking about. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. So I have to move forward with that and say, yes, that's acceptable, it's okay. Wrapping all that up, there's not much more I can say about that, except it's not as bad as a lot of people are trying to make it out to be. If you break it down and look at it, it's actually acceptable, it's okay. Thank you for that.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chair. Well, if anybody went and actually talked to a farmer and you said, I'm thinking of buying a house 80 metres away from your farm, I think he would laugh at you, because the minimum distance you would want to be would be 200 metres. And I know people say never lived closer than 400 metres to a pig farm. And I'm really disappointed the council's environmental health protection team have managed to do a desk study and come up with an answer with no pigs and the wind blowing from the southwest all the time to say this is quite acceptable. This is most unacceptable, both in terms of procedure and what people are trying to do. I think an awful application.
Thank you. Could I ask if Highways want to make a comment about the footpaths and the access to school and safer routes?
I can do if you'd like me to. Whilst the footpaths being proposed are not the standard width, they have been safety audited by our safety audit team, and they are considered a betterment to what is already there, i.e. nothing. So whilst they wouldn't be standard width, they are acceptable in safety terms because they are better than what is already there.
Councillor Reid, you indicate you wanted to come back on your comment.
Just on pavements, Chair. The school is at the edge of the village. From the rest of the village, the pavements to the school are perfectly adequate. This is the other side of the school into open countryside. There are no pavements. The proposal is to put on a very narrow one, and to be able to do that, narrow the main road. It will be dangerous. There is an alternative. It has not been looked at, and I'm very disappointed it hasn't.
Thank you. And do you want to make any further comment, or we'll leave it at that? And then I will, two more people, and I have a motion on the table which I would like to take forward.
I don't think there's much more for me to add, really. They have been put through the safety process, which includes the narrowing of the highway has also been through that same safety process.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. I had Dawn, then Suzanne, and then Helen. And I think at that stage, we now take the motion. I'm sorry, did the planning officer wanted to add anything?
Sorry, Chair, just to come back in on the numbers, just for the avoidance of doubt, so that members are aware, the study was undertaken on the basis of 600 pigs. It was undertaken on the basis that they arrive when they're small, they're on site for 10 weeks, they grow to be big, and they ascribe a theoretical odour emission value to the pigs at each stage of their growth, and that was modelled on the basis of the existing sheds. So just for the avoidance of doubt, I don't really need to say any more, do I? But there was 600 pigs, it was the existing sheds.
Thank you, that's helpful. Councillor Denton.
Thank you. Yeah, I've known many odour making units in my life, but never 600 at one time. And I think that would be completely unacceptable. I think our previous refusal still stands, the acceptance going against the officer recommendation with regards to noise and odour arising from the operation of the farm. And I think that's something that I would like to add to the mix, please.
Thank you. Councillor Hart.
So when you've deemed that a narrow pavement and a narrower road is better than no pavement in the existing road, have you taken into consideration the additional at least 80 cars that will have people going to work or doing whatever they're doing for the day if they're not going to work? Or is that based on the current usage of the road?
Would you like to respond?
The safety audit process will have taken into account the proposed development as well as the existing scenario.
Thank you. Councillor Kay.
Just to say, I'm just looking at our local plan part 1, which I've split up into bits, and it's the development policy DP7, paragraph 6.69 says the operation of sewage treatment works results in localised nuisance impacts primarily related to odour. As a result, treatment facilities are generally located at distance from residential areas. Any development proposed within cordons defined by Essex Water be subject to consultation with water companies, etc. I just think this pigs are obviously not in here, but it is recognised as being a problem, and I just feel like there's not any mitigation that we can take. It's like quite often in these circumstances, as I mentioned earlier, that there was a housing development next to the industrial estate in my area, and there was a 24-hour business that felt threatened because they thought that they would get complaints going forward. Those are not occupied yet, so we don't actually know if they're going to get complaints going forward. We don't know if this farmer's going to get complaints going forward. And I think they were able to do some sort of mitigation by building in a particular way. Here, it doesn't seem there's any mitigation possible, apart from asking the farmer to move his sheds, 100 metres further north or something, and that's a big ask. So I'm just concerned that how we cannot mitigate against this.
Right. I'd like to take this to. We have a motion on the table. We need to get the reasons really clear. I have a number in front of me. I've got impact on a local business, impact on farming, harm to the local economy, DP7 and DP8 are not satisfied, noise and odour, and question mark whether we wanted to include safer routes to school. Can I ask the officers any comments on the reasons being given for refusal?
Sorry, I didn't quite finish. I was going to say something about it's not a sustainable development if we imagine that everyone's going to drive. That's the other thing.
Okay, would I have any advice on that? I'm quite happy to go with all those reasons. No comments from the officers. So on that basis, we have a number of reasons, and as a proposal, Councillor Reid, are you content with impact on the local business, impact on farming, harm to the local economy, not satisfying DP7 and 8, noise and odour, and it's not a sustainable development? And since you haven't spoken, yes, you may add something.
Simply that this has come back to this committee again, and we were asked to consider whether the development significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. And in the discussion around the table, it appears that many people don't believe that there is any tangible and reasonable change from the reasons why we refused it before. We've considered other evidence and possibly speaking on everybody's behalf, has this created significant demonstrable benefit? No.
Thank you for that. That is strong wording. I just wanted to make sure we flesh it out so that the items are included. People
DT7 and DT8, yeah, I think you've bought one. I will take them all in.
Chair, so yeah. I don't want to overstep the mark, and I completely understand that what members are talking about, but we spent quite a lot of time at committee last time focusing the concerns that you had on the 2 reasons for refusal that we ended up with. I just wondered whether there was a need to look beyond them. That was the advice that you were given by Dawn as your lead officer and by Simon and I, that might be. I mean, I particularly don't like the agricultural land one, but that's where we were last time. Has anything changed to move us from those 2 to a wider series of reasons, or is that focused 2-pronged reasons for refusal still appropriate? Just raise that question.
I was trying to make sure that we were covering everything, because I think people were slightly uncomfortable with the 2 reasons given last time. But the motion in front of us is from Councillor Reid, so.
Thank you. So just to really cover that point off, obviously it was before members last time. There were 2 recommended reasons for refusal. Following the committee determination last time, additional information was submitted to try and address the first of the 2 reasons for refusal. The question really is, does that information address that reason for refusal or not? There would potentially be a question about reasonableness if we are introducing new and different reasons for refusal at the second time of hearing that we didn't resolve on first time round. So I'm just raising that as a big red flag for members. But the question is, primarily, I think the main concern that has been expressed around the table is that this development isn't appropriate relative to the proximity of the pig farm, which is addressed through the first reason for refusal as voted on by members last time. And the question I think that's being asked is the additional information that's been submitted since members resolved on the first reason for refusal last time sufficient to address the concerns, and would it outweigh any sort of benefits of the proposal? The answer I'm hearing around the table from members is no. So in my interpretation of it, it's that the first reason for refusal still stands. In the debate that I've heard, I haven't heard anyone discuss, I don't want to elongate this process any longer than possible, but no one has discussed the agricultural land value, which was the second reason for refusal. And, you know, if members are still happy that that is still a sufficient reason for refusal, it could still be the two reasons. If beyond that, the other things that have been listed, you feel that they are fundamentally not covered robustly enough in the first two reasons for refusal when it was last presented, then you do have the ability to impose a further reason for refusal at this stage. But it is a high risk to the council if we are introducing new grounds at this stage, bearing in mind we had a really detailed debate last time.
Okay, I've got three hands in front of me. I will take Councillor Reid, Councillor Sully, and or I think it was Councillor Denton, and then we just need to bring this to conclusion. First of all, could Councillor... Yes, if you go last and have Councillor Sully.
Thank you, Rob. I thought I put my hand up before you. The question we were asked was, has the new information changed our view on the harms outweighing the benefits? That was the question, the new information. Just because we then went wider about what those harms were. So I disagree with the officer, how the officers interpreted what we have been talking about. It's not different. We've just talked about the harms because the additional information makes us talk about the harms. And we've queried the additional information and in relation to the actual reality of the business that is there. So I feel that the advice, I'm confused by why the officer is saying, why Dawn is saying what she just said without trying to put pressure, because I just disagree with how you're interpreting. There is actually a slide that says, do the harms outweigh, has this additional information changed? So we're going to bring everything up. It's not new. I think if you compare the conversations and debates this time with last time, it's not new what we're saying, which brings me back to why has this come back? I don't think the additional information was particularly strong. And I definitely said about the agricultural land, once it's gone, and we have to value it. And we have to look to the future now. I've got the words in front of me, so I did say it. Please, you can go back on the video. It is really important.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Denton.
I think sometimes we follow science, which is great because it's important, but it doesn't always equate with lived experience. You know, and you can be miles away from a pig farm. I'm sure that many of the people who live in that village will know that they can smell the pig farm, and they're further away from where this development is, and they can also hear it. So I just think sometimes we need to consider people rather than numbers and facts. And I know that the law likes the numbers and the facts to support decisions, but sometimes the lived experience, well, actually all the time, the lived experience really has to outweigh the numbers. And our previous reasons for refusal I have in front of me is the loss of agricultural land, which is a finite resource, as Claire has said. And then the last part was about will not be acceptable in regards to noise and odour arising from the operation of the pig farm. So I think it's really important that we don't allow the numbers to outweigh, because it's not real. That's not always real. You know, it's great that we've got a model and we've got, you know, scientists saying things, but actually when you're living there, it makes a big difference.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Chair. Well, to add up, I think it'd be best to put in the same reasons for refusal that we had last time, and if possible, add we're prejudicing the sustainability of a local farm, which is quite important.
Okay. Can I say personally, up to there, I would have supported the first two. I've got no evidence in front of me as to the viability of the farm or the prejudice of, and we've got no evidence in front of us of that. So I think we just need to be careful about that one. Okay. Yep. Right. So what we're saying is we need to get the wording right on this for the new information does not in any way significantly and demonstratively change the view of the committee. The loss of agricultural land, the noise and odour of the unit in the impact on the potential housing, but we don't need to say that. Would you be content with just those two? Noise and odour and agriculture as before, or do we need to add anything else?
Why we're changing what I originally said with Rob, which was DP 7 and 9, have not been demonstrated. Satisfactory environment for housing has not been demonstrated, and obviously the harm to the local business and economy. Yeah, sorry, DP 7 and 8.
Just to say, Chair, members, the policy references that Councillor Sully has just made, we would include those as within the reason for refusal that was taken last time.
Thank you, that's helpful. So that's reassuring for us. We're reaffirming. So on that basis that we have a motion in front of us proposed by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Sully, which refers to the loss of agricultural land, the noise and odour. There will be reference to DP 7 and 8 being not demonstrated, and the other item, which is harm to the local economy, which I believe Councillor Sully was keen to put in there. That is a new issue. Are we wanting to add that or not? Is there any appetite? Getting a yes? Any reason not to at this stage?
Chair, with apologies, I'm not sure what the harm to the local economy is that goes beyond the. We've got it one way round, haven't we? We've got the residential environment that would be created because the pig farm would be unacceptable. I think that's enough. I don't think we need to turn it around the other way and say housing here would impact on the farm, because we're saying that farming here would impact on the housing. So, and I think, as you were saying, we've got no information or evidence before us technically about the viability of the farm. So it's much more robust to do it one way round and not the other.
And I understand that because the impact of not having these houses would affect the local economy as well. So I think we need to have a very clear understanding of the impact. Councillor Sully, and then we do need to wind this up.
Yeah, my understanding is that we are having a change of use of land that could be used for the farming industry in that area.
Well, we've got that at the beginning.
Yeah, but that is the answer. Sorry, Chair, that's to answer that question. We could have a bit of farming business there. We could see which we need. We need for sustainability, food security. We should keep it, not change of use for that particular area. That's what I mean by local. Economy.
So if that's the case, we've got the loss of agricultural land, which essence means what you're saying, the impact on the economy. So we go back to the original reasons for refusal proposed by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Sully, and that is the loss of agricultural land, the noise and odour, and it will be referenced DP 7 and DP 8 as not being demonstrated. Okay, on that basis, could I have a vote then, please? Who supports the motion? Who's against the motion? Any objections? One. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right. Thank you very much indeed to the people of Evercreech who have joined us today. And I will give everyone 2 or 3 minutes if you need a comfort break before we go on to the rest of the agenda. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 10:02. Can we please come to the seat again? Thank you. Just for the minutes, can we note that Councillor Hart has left the room? Other than that, I think we're all here, and I would like to move on with some speed. We're taking an awful long time over this agenda this afternoon. Item 7, this is at Holcombe near Radstock, and it's an application for erection of a single-storey detached building and garage. And I have a number of speakers, and I would like to invite Claire Cockle.
Any chance I can have
sorry,
a first?
that's me trying to move things forward. Apologies to all and sundry.
We could speed it up.
Right, I would like very much indeed to have the presentation from you, Carlton. My apologies.
No problem. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, like you quite rightly said, this is an application for the erection of a single-storey bungalow-type property just on the periphery of the village of Holcombe, which is a secondary village in the local plan. The land in question is in the ownership of Quercus, single property, and has a planning history on the land of being used as nursery, but since it's sort of like quite overgrown now, hence the application to for a possibility of a dwelling on the site. So we just show you the location plan here. It gives you an indication. So the red line encompasses Quercus, the original dwelling house, which was granted quite a few years ago now, and then extends south away from Common Lane to where the property is going to be erected. It's just a indication of the other land available in the ownership of the applicant as well. This is the proposed site plan. So the proposal will erect the bungalow towards the south of the site, or towards the middle of the site in the south. It'll gain access via an existing access place to Quercus with some highway improvements. Just talk through, this is obviously bungalow style property, so you'll see single ground floor plan with attached garage. These are the elevation details. There's a sort of orthographic detail. So this plan merely indicates the slight changes and improvements to the width of the access arrangements there. So ease of access can be maintained on and off the site. Photographs are quite limited because the site's quite overgrown at the moment, but top left hand shows looking into the site from the south along a public right of way, and the picture in the bottom right hand corner is from within the site next to the existing shed that's on the building, looking down towards the footpath. We've got some aerial images here of where the arrow is roughly where the property is going to be, where there's an existing shed and greenhouse. So the reason for refusal is that, and so in coming to that conclusion, the council has first and foremost looked at the site and being outside development limits. So in relation to the key core policies in our local plan, it wouldn't be an appropriate location for new development. And that's also highlighted in the Holcombe Village Design Statement in paragraph 13, which suggests that really they shouldn't be building outside the development limit as indicated in the amended district local plan. So in first and foremost, it should be refused. However, we don't have a 5-year housing supply, and we do have a shortage of homes in the village. So we need to balance that against the benefits of bringing forward the site as a possible location for a dwelling. And in terms of its location to the village, it is quite close. It has accessible routes to the village, not only public footpaths, but along the street. So there are alternative means of getting around the village, not just wholly reliant on the use of the private car. So in terms of its location, it's not unsustainable development, and it's not isolated in any means. However, we then got to look at any other aspect of developing the land that might be harmful. And within Holcombe's Village Design Statement, it clearly indicates that the land is of high value. This whole area down the eastern side, from north to south of the village, you'll notice Holcombe Village has a very distinctive road that goes straight up the hill, dividing the village into east and west. So on the east side, they've very much signified that this land is very important in defining the landscape value of the area, and this site falls within that. So we've taken a measure in terms of the harm that would be. So it takes us full circle back to the original, says that, you know, you shouldn't really be building outside development limits, and essentially that supplementary guidance, that Village Design Statement strengthens our core reasons for not recommending approval of this application in this instance. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Right, we have 3 speakers this afternoon on this. Claire Cockle, Councillor Philip Gate. Hello again, I haven't seen that individual for a long, long time. And Stuart Needs. So first of all, Claire Cockle.
Hello all, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to express my full support for my neighbour Stuart in his application to build a modest eco home on his land in Holcombe. Stuart and his wife are sadly divorcing, and as a small business owner running a local florist, this project represents the only realistic way for him to continue living in the village, close to his 2 children, who both wish, as do their parents, to remain rooted in the community they have called home for over 20 years. My garden at Meadow Cottage borders Stuart's fields to the south, and my family and I have known Stuart and his family for over 10 years. During that time, we've seen firsthand his love for the land and the environment. He is deeply committed to enhancing his 5 acres for the benefit of local wildlife, much as we have done with our own 2 acres. His vision is to develop the remainder of his land as a thriving wildlife haven, whilst building a modestly sized, suitably designed eco house on the site of an existing stable. While technically the site lies just beyond the formal village boundary, it sits within the heart of Holcombe, near to other homes. The proposed house would blend naturally with its surroundings, maintaining the rural character of the area and avoiding any intrusion into the open countryside. This is not speculative building or profit seeking. It is a genuine local need. A respected resident and a valued contributor to village life, seeking to remain in his community, enable him to co-parent his children and continue caring for the land he loves. Importantly, there is overwhelming support from parishioners and the parish council. This proposal reflects compassion, common sense and environmental stewardship, values that our planning system should uphold. In approving this application, you will be enabling a local family to remain part of Holcombe's fabric, supporting a sustainable living and ensuring that this land is both protected and enhanced for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for finding your time today. Councillor Gate. Good afternoon and welcome back to Mendip.
Good afternoon, thank you very much. And at last, a nice simple application for you to discuss. I'm a member of Holcombe Parish Council, and on behalf of the council, I ask you to approve this application. When we discussed the application, we could find no material planning consideration issues, nor could we identify any significant adverse impacts resulting from the development. We fully supported the proposal as it is a sustainable build eco-home, will improve biodiversity, is an additional small family home in the village, and helps the personal circumstances of the applicant. We did also note that recently there have been 4 applications approved for dwellings in Holcombe that were outside the development limits. These have added to the number of much needed small family homes in the village. As a district councillor at the time, I was involved in producing the Holcombe Village Design Statement. With the improved mapping now available to the Parish Council, if the design statement were produced today, it would have identified more clearly on a map the highly valued open spaces surrounding the village. And incidentally, highly valued open spaces is quite a good term we've used, unlike the planning open countryside, but often applies to land which is neither open nor countryside. If you visited the site, you will have clearly seen it is not a highly valued site, and thus that the recommendation for refusal based on the design statement do not apply. Continuing on the other reasons for refusal, the site is alongside several other properties and does appreciate its rural context. It can only be seen by the adjacent neighbours. The footpath adjacent to the site being below the level of the site and the partial hedge means that walkers on the footpath will be largely unaware of the development. It does not cause unacceptable harm to the rural character and appearance of the area. One of Holcombe's distinctiveness is the wide variety of housing styles. Hence, the development does contribute to the maintenance of local identity and distinctiveness. We believe that the application should be approved as there are no adverse issues that significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. And we therefore ask you to approve the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for coming and joining us today. Now move on to Stuart Needs. Three minutes when you're ready.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about my application for a self-built single-storey dwelling to the rear of Quercus Common Lane, Holcombe. Due to a divorce, our family home must now be sold. We have loved living in the village and being part of its community, and I'm simply hoping for the chance to remain here and continuing to contribute to village life. We have 2 children, our daughter, who will be soon leaving for university, and our son Toby, who has ADHD and receives Senko support. Toby finds life more challenging and needs supervision, so being able to co-parent within the village would give him the stability and support he needs. I run a small flower stall at the local markets in Frome, Castle Carey and Bradford-on-Avon, growing many of my own flowers to supplement my income. I also need a secure base to park and heat my van and somewhere modest and affordable to live and work from. Before submitting the application in January, we sought the application advice from Jennifer Alvis, who kindly visited the site, the only person to visit to our knowledge. She advised that although the land lies just outside the settlement boundary, it is directly adjacent to it, well connected to local services and comparable to other plots that have been approved. She also confirmed that we were taking the right steps with our tree and ecology surveys, and it was worth applying for full planning permission. The proposed home is a single-storey timber-clad dwelling, deliberately kept low in height to blend in with the countryside. The officer's reports refers to harm to rural character, loss of local identity, impact on outlet, trees, wildlife and the public right of way. But each of these points have been addressed. The village has no uniform style, the ecology and tree reports raise no concerns, the right of way is unaffected and no statutory consultee has objected. Beyond this, the project represents a genuine opportunity to show what sustainable self-build can achieve. I've spent hundreds of hours researching hemp lime construction and other low-carbon methods that self-builders can realistically deliver. Paired with the solar panels and potential borehole and a strong focus on biodiversity, this could become a small example of how eco-homes can be both affordable and replicable, not just a privilege for the wealthy. If this opportunity is lost, I would likely have to buy a small starter home somewhere, taking a home from another family and losing a much-loved small family business that brings people together. Therefore, ask the committee to see this as more than a planning application. It's a chance to support a local family, a sustainable build and the government's pledge to encourage self-build housing. If approved, this could be a small but powerful blueprint for others to follow. And obviously to help co-parent my son. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Nees, and thank you for being with us this afternoon and having to wait. Right, we'll now move on to the committee. Any thoughts about this at all? Councillor Kay?
Yes, thank you. I see it's been recommended for refusal, and I at the moment I don't have a view one way or the other on that. But I'm asking a what if question again. That if this is we decide to go against officer recommendation and allow it to go through, can the officers tell me how we can put the conditions on to ensure that it is actually an eco home, so that it is you know, we do have solar panels or whatever. It's in one of the BAT areas. In the report it says Bath and Bradford BAT area, but then later it says Mells, but it's in one or the other. And we need to also make sure that it's got shutters on the roof lights. I see there's roof lights there, and we need to make sure we've got landscaping plans, materials, etc. So I want to know, first of all, what is that process if we were to go against officer recommendation today? Thank you.
Well, we could put the conditions we feel necessary to go on
Would
there.
you, are you on mic?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies then.
And we could put the conditions we feel necessary on there.
So we'd have to make them up today in the spot.
No.
Again, just to help you, Councillor Kate, same process as what we've outlined earlier on. If the committee approve the application, if you can set out any conditions that you think need to be covered, we will draft a condition, and again we'll agree with the chair and the vice chair, which is standard practice when you go against an officer recommendation for refusal.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comment? Or?
Yeah, also, although I'm aware of Stuart, I don't know him personally, but I've seen you around in Frome because I think you sell flowers in Frome. But yeah, it's difficult because I don't think we're supposed to take personal on this committee. We're not really supposed to take personal circumstances into consideration. I mean, I would love it if I could, and I'm very tempted to say that I approve of it for that reason. But before I knew it was you and what your circumstances were, I was looking at it and thinking, Carlton, the officer is right. It's actually one development on quite a big piece of land. If you're going to develop there at all, we should plan it. You know, we should think about that whole sort of wedge there and about how many houses we can fit in there. Rather than it just being one at a time. So I'm actually a little bit torn on this. So I don't know what other people think. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Councillor Henley.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I fail to see why a plot of land would cause any problem to somebody wanting to build a house. I don't. We've had lots of things come through before with huge plots of land, and that's up to the individual if they've got a big plot of land. So that's great. Furthermore, I don't see how this new property, could interfere with any other house around the area. Absolutely nothing. It's a bungalow. It's not a 3-storey property. Everything, they've got a shared drive. We spoke to the neighbour spoke to us in full support, the parish council. I don't understand what the problem is here. You could go down the road and say, well, that doesn't fit, that doesn't fit. Well, okay, the benefits outweigh anything negative. Absolutely. So at this moment, just as we sit here just now, the man has got my full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Ashton and then Sally and Dimmery.
I have to say, I don't quite understand why the objective is that it's not enough houses in there. I mean, the applicant could have applied for 5 houses to go in there and just not only build out one. But I agree with the previous councillor that I can't see any reason why we should really object to this at all. It actually, on the wider scale, it looks like infill to me, actually in the village.
Councillor Sally. Oh, sorry, Barry. Too late in the day.
I got there in the end. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. One of the reasons for refusal, it's outside of the village development limits, which I find quite encouraging because there are 148 houses in Colford. They're outside the development limits. So can we get them off the map as well, please? I think I respect everything that Carlton does, but I think sometimes shouldn't we have a little bit of flexibility that we could not change the rules? I mean, this guy's not a problem. He doesn't want to make a mess of anything. He's not looking to shoehorn 30 houses to the acre up there. Can't we just say to him, of course you can, and let's help one of our residents who's got a genuine need. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Do the harms outweigh the benefits? No, the benefits outweigh the harms. I think the applicant is willing to do everything that they can do to ensure that this is the right build for the location and the environment, and in the context of the neighbour and the parish council, I feel that we should approve this planning application.
Thank you. Councillor Dimmery.
Yeah, I think Carl presented a very balanced report. Actually, I think you gave some of the reasons why we might think about changing the decision on this. I'm not swayed necessarily by emotional pleas. This is on a planning matter. I think we come back to that terrible thing, councillors' discretion, if there is such a thing, and if we do have any. And I think that in this particular instance, I follow what Claire Sully was saying, and I think the benefits outweigh the harms.
Thank you. I'll make a comment on this. I'm involved in my neighbourhood plan. And in fact, the very first thing we did when we started the neighbourhood plan was to go and look at Holcomb's, which has always been held up as a really important document and well thought through. And the neighbourhood plan for Holcombe is very clear about the importance of this land. And having sweated through probably 80 plus hours of meetings on the neighbourhood plan for the last 2 or 3 years, I feel to go against what was passed by the community and agreed and has been in standing for some time. I'm not sure I've seen enough of a good reason why we should ignore the neighbourhood plan, other than personal family circumstances. And I guess, that's rather like Councillor Kay. I feel quite uncomfortable about that because we're always told all the time that personal family circumstances are not a material planning consideration whatsoever. And I'm not totally convinced from what the parish council chairman said, that the change in view of the parish council to this piece of land, what does it mean? Are you going to invite more areas of your land around the village to be built on, or what? It's not clear, and I'm really quite torn on this one.
But I also think that we are in the business of people, And that's what we're here for. We're here for people and about people. And I also think that each case will sit on its own merit. And those decisions will come in front of us, and we'll have to go against plans. We'll have to debate outside of areas, but each of those will have to come forward as individual planning applications. So we can't really look at those and say, oh, well, are we opening the floodgates? Because that's not going to happen. And I think in this instance, we need to look at the people involved, the person involved, and what it means. And there's nobody who's objecting. Everybody's really happy with this. Everyone's supportive of this. And I can't see why we would be debating anything else.
Thank you. Any other comments, or do I have a proposal in front of me? Mr. Hendry. Councillor Hendry, sorry.
Thank you. I think, Councillor Sully, did you actually propose, was I right in that or not? Did you propose to do anything then?
Didn't, but I will if I'm needed to. But if
I've
you
not
would
had
like to-
any proposal on the table yet.
Okay,
I think Councillor Ashton wanted to speak.
I've one very small point. The applicant mentioned borehole. I would really not like to see any conditions on borehole, considering the proposed changes to abstraction rules. That could take them in the knot.
I'm quite happy to make a proposal there to grant permission. Thank you.
You're proposing, would you like to say the reasons why for the proposal, as you're going against officer recommendation?
Absolutely, no problem. I don't think this will impose on anybody else in any way. It's a standalone project. It's somebody said it was an infill, so I'm not quite sure about that. An infill, something that, okay, that's that too. It's a bungalow and it's not 2 or 3 story property. So even if it did overtake anything, then it's on its low merits anyway. It's got a shared driveway, so there's no change to highways. Everything's already there in situ. I absolutely go with this on all those points, and I cannot give anything negative to say about it. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman, sorry, just to say, members, because this application would represent a departure from your development plan. So again, there isn't any support from your development plan policies. You've obviously got to approve it as a departure. So if you do go and approve it, what we'll have to do is advertise it as a departure and provide anyone in the local community the opportunity to provide any further comments. But it's very important in your resolution that you recognise you're approving it as a departure, and that needs to come out in the minutes.
So there needs to be a reason for the departure. I have a further comment to be made, but first of all, Councillor Demery, you wanted to say something? Could I just ask if this is an eco building, but we don't have any roof lights on it? Because, you know, as far as I can see, roof lights affect the wildlife in the countryside quite considerably. And my memory of it is there is roof lights on.
That's why I mentioned the bat zones and whether we could have shutters, either that or shutters.
Yeah, again, members, just to help you with your reason as to why you think it's acceptable as a departure. So in completing the planning balance, the case officer has concluded that the proposal wouldn't maintain the local identity and distinctiveness. It fails to appreciate its local rural context. So you're quite entitled to balance the reverse of that, and you think it does. So that's important. Then I think in terms of conditions, there's quite a few conditions that we would need to consider imposing with regards to the sustainability construction issues that Councillor Kay's talked about. So if you're comfortable in deferring conditions to officers to set out and present to the chair and the vice chair for approval, we can do that, and we'll make sure that we include all the conditions that are necessary. And we wouldn't, as a matter of course, reference the water supply from the borehole.
Okay. If that's what gets over the line, then absolutely, Chairman. The good points outweigh the not so good points. No doubt about that at all. So if we have to take it a stage further to the next level, that's absolutely fine. But I stand by what I said already, and I do propose to grant permission. Thank you.
So the reason for going outside the development plan is that the benefits outweigh the issues. And is that sufficient enough for what we're doing? Great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Are people therefore happy to second this? Someone? Thank you, Councillor Ashton. And shall we take this to the vote then, with the conditions being prepared by officers for this eco build outside the room, with reference to myself and the Vice Chair? Yep. Okay then. Could I have a vote, please? Those against? 1. And abstentions? Right. Congratulations, Neves. The outcome of the vote was 8 for against the officer's recommendation, and 1 against, and one extension. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, for that, and thank you, Dawn, for staying with us. Right, we've now got 2 applications, and we're rapidly coming to 4 hours and towards 6 o'clock. I think realistically, we need to have a decision with the officers as to whether we'll take both applications. If you bear with me 2 minutes, have a conversation. I think. I know. What's the way that it? We go with the first one. It would take us to 6 o'clock. I don't think we have any option, do we? We for the first one. Hmm? Yeah. I think we may have. Yeah. Okay.
So is it? Oh.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, again. We're obviously running out of time. Some of the earlier applications took a lot longer. Given what we have in front of us, we have 2 planning applications. Both of them are reserved matters. The second of them, the one at Sandy Lane, Frome, is regarded as being the one which we probably could do reasonably promptly in comparison to what will be quite considerable presentation and information around item 8 at Stoke St Michael. I'm very aware that a lot of you have been sitting for a long time on probably not particularly comfortable chairs and feeling very frustrated how long it's taken there. I equally am aware that officers and members are also heavily committed. I will in terms of constitution, have to take a vote to go beyond 6 o'clock because we will be then going for 4 hours. And what I'm proposing is that we go straight to item 9, which we think and believe, but one never knows, will be one we can actually move forward fairly rapidly. As we move towards 6 o'clock, I'll take a vote as to whether we carry on to complete item 9 and leave item 8 for a separate meeting. I really sincerely apologise to all of you who have sat and waited. That's the nature of the game. I've done that all day at County Hall in the past, so I realise the sheer frustration of it. But I think realistically, we're eating into evening time, and I think that if you want good decisions from a planning committee, going beyond 6 should only be for a very brief time and certainly not enough to cover both items. So on that basis, we'll make sure that item 8 comes back really promptly, and we'll make sure that the communication is really helpful to all of you. It is quite a significant reserve matters one, and one which needs to have, I think, suitable consideration. Item 9 will then move on to now, and yeah. I'm just taking advice whether I take the vote now or at 6 o'clock.
Take it now. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's really helpful in understanding, because we want to do the very best for every application. I would like to take a vote then to see whether we take item 9 and we take it hopefully not much over 6 o'clock. Sorry? Well, you're talking about item 8, aren't you, at Stoke St Michael? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor Dimery?
I just wanted to say that in my view that that item ought to be first on our agenda when it comes up.
Absolutely, totally agree with you. I feel really embarrassed that we've had you sitting here listening to what is been quite a lengthy process. So on the advice of the legal officer, I'll take the vote now. Are people content to go to item 9, which may take us across the 6 o'clock boundary, but hopefully not much longer than that? All those in favour? Any against? No?
I'm sorry, but the point of order really, if it's much over that, I have another meeting. I'm probably some of us, others have another.
And me too.
I will have to leave before a decision is made.
Okay. Let's see if we can do this with some degree and ask not for repetition where possible. So total clarity, we're postponing Stoke St Michael application, land south of Fairbanks, until the next meeting or a meeting, and we'll make sure you're informed. And we go straight now to planning application for the land north and south of Sandy Lanes, Frome. This is a reserve matters one, and I'll ask the officer to go through the details, please.
Right. Thank you, Chair. So this details of the application up there. This is for reserve matters following an outline approval. It would help if I'd moved on. Yeah. Apologies. Thank you. I'll be right there. Application for reserve matters following outline approval 2019-1671 OTS, and the matters to be determined are appearance, landscaping, layout and scale, access, and the principle of the development was approved at outline stage, and it's land north and south of Sanders Hill Lane in Frome. Is that better? Can you hear me now? I was just reading that slide, it was quite dull. Right, here we are, a location map. So the red line is the site, the blue line shows the wider wider outline planning site, and the blue line down here is the potential phase 2, which we'll come on to during the course of the application. There's a little aerial there, so just to orientate it for you, this lovely neat rectangle is the proposal site, so it's the sort of the top half there. This is Sainsbury's, McDonald's, the old home base and Halfords, the police station. This is the part of the residential that's been built out under the same outline planning, and there's more residential up in this area as well. So this is what we're calling phase 1. It's what I call the front of the site. It's that northern part of the site, and this is for a retail unit here coming off. This access, as I say, has already been approved, and it's coming off Sanders Hill Lane to service this, which is going to be taken, the land is owned by, it's going to be taken by Home Bargains, and you've got car parking here, and this is actually the potential site phase 2, but we're not worrying about that today. The reason I put this on here is it just shows you the existing and proposed levels, which you will not be able to read, so I'll read them out for you. Basically, at the moment, the front of the site is currently 108 metres above datum level and rises to 115 metres above datum level at the rear. And there is going to be some reprofiling of the site, which will very slightly increase the front of the site to 109 metres and lower the rear to 111 metres. I should have said at the beginning, this application has been subject to a number of revisions during its course. So it's very important to just look at the most recent plans, which were listed in the report, and also some of the comments obviously refer to previous iterations, and that's why subsequent comments came in. The actual site layout for phase 1 is here. You've got the grey area of parking, the white area of the unit itself, and the access shown there. There is an oak tree here, which will come up in conversation. It's not actually tree protected, it's not got a TPO on it, but it is considered a significant tree, a category A tree. Just added in the roof plan. You won't be able to tell anything from this either, but those hatched lines here are solar PV solar panels. There is a notation there that if you look at it more closely on your own screens, or have looked at it before, you'll see, but those are solar panels. It's obviously a site where the service yard has not got a separate access. It's coming through the main access, which is not completely unusual setup. And so some swept path analyses were submitted showing how delivery trucks, of which there should be one a day to the store, can come into and through and around the site. And a more detailed analysis of going in and out of the loading bay. Additional softwork plans were submitted during the application, so I think this is perhaps clearer than the initial plans showed in terms of how the site is going to be landscaped. And then I've just got a few photos to show you, just because I was on the site and took them. So this is sort of from the entrance looking south, and you can see that first tranche of housing there. Well, you can barely see that first tranche of housing, but it is there. This is looking towards what I'm calling the rear, so you've got the housing here and open countryside, again towards the rear of the site. This is looking to the northwest, and you've got Sainsbury's here. It is there. You've got sort of Sainsbury's, McDonald's. I think you can just see the Wessex Fields, and you come round to the site entrance. And this one again is looking towards the front of the site, and that's the Wessex Fields retail units. And that's the current hedge on the site. And the last one, if I can get to it on my screen, this is the very front, the northeast corner of the site, and this is the oak tree that is protected, and I think this fencing relates to the corollary fencing on the other side that was put up by the housing developers. So it's been protected during the housing development, and obviously will be further protected during the development of this site.
And I think that's it, as far as I'm concerned at the minute.
Thank you for
And
that.
we are recommending approval. Sorry.
And you're recommending approval. Thank you.
Subject to conditions which were all in the report pack.
Thank you for that. I have a number of speakers on this. The first one is Gary Wicks from, doesn't say who he is, I think he's a resident, and he's not here and has asked me to read it. I will read this just to say these are not my personal comments in any way. This is totally as he has written. As a resident of 18 months at Curo Keyford Meadows development, residents have noticed a marked increase in traffic congestion from Sainsbury's McDonald's roundabout, which is exacerbated by commuter traffic stopping for food at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and during the evening times. These are not fixed either. There is frequent stationary traffic between the Sainsbury's roundabouts and the Keyford Meadows development throughout the day. All entrances to the Sainsbury roundabout easily become backlogged, and from the roundabout to McDonald's entrance becomes a traffic jam, even for those who are wishing simply to return home to Keyford Meadows. It has become a matter of routine for traffic to park right across the road, snaking into the entrance of the drive-through, therefore blocking Keyford Meadows entrance exit and parking across the 2 lanes of highways. As a consequence, residents are often held within Keyford Meadows until a McDonald's customer sees sense. The situation is even worse when returning home, finding oneself often 6 deep in a queue, and if the traffic is not parked across the highway, then there's a chance to overtake at a slow pace and return home, risking a collision with those exiting from drive-through who often fail to pay due care and attention. Should a resident make it a drive-through entrance, they're frequently met with very severe verbal abuse from customers who believe they're attempting to push in the queue. Within the past 10 days, I myself have been victim for some particularly vile accusations and words that nobody should have had to suffer due to poor planning decisions. Selwood Parish councillors present today are aware of the extent of the abuse. Additionally, traffic leaves McDonald's without paying attention to the giveaway sign and pulling straight out into the road. If the traffic is free to pass into and out of Keyford Meadows, then it is also at the risk of being hit careless driving. McDonald's traffic frequently parks within Keyford Meadows entrance if the car park itself is full, and this also leaves the rubbish being thrown out from vehicles. Additional traffic will soon utilise this single road in and out of Keyford Meadows when additional fast food establishment is built and with the forthcoming advent of the Selwood Garden community. Highway safety is already a concern for pedestrians, and poor visibility at driving levels should only be exacerbated by unparalleled increase in capacity of vehicle traffic. 7 days ago, Somerset Council waste disposal trucks decided to park 4 vehicles in the line while visiting and eating at McDonald's within the entrance of Keyford Meadows, making for a mobile chicane.
Time's up, Chair.
Okay, I've got 2 sentences, and probably because I am very slow at reading this at this hour, I will give him the benefit. Making a mobile chicane for anyone attempting to enter or exit the development, entertaining the idea of HGVs transiting and potentially reversing within this stretch of road is pure folly. The road system is currently unworkable and shall only even worsen. Do not be responsible for the detrimental effect on highway safety as outlined above. Additionally, with this being the only road in and out of Keyford Meadows development, coupled with future traffic flows and acceptance of this application risks many hostages of residents at Keyford Meadows. There is undoubtedly an increase of accidents due to the highway traffic volumes, leading to worsening congestion and queues coupled with reduction in air quality. Gary Wicks, resident of Oakley Way. Okay, thank you for that. And I now move on to the Parish Council, Councillor Richard Hammonds from Selwood Parish Council.
Just for the committees, really, to understand the site more, that's just on the screen behind you. You might want to refer to that for the start of my talk. Okay. So in 2019, outline permission was granted to the landowners and the sites are now being sold off piecemeal to two developers. Let's look at the context of this site. To the south, Cura are building 198 houses with 480 cars. TJ Morris are looking to build 2 retail units southeast of Sainsbury's and McDonald's at the entrance to the development area, one of which is for you today. Further applications will be forthcoming for a drive-in fast food outlet and a commercial estate opposite. The only access road is past McDonald's, whose customers queue on the access road and often block residents getting home. In future, they will block traffic to the retail and commercial sites as well. This application is for the front retail unit. They want HGV to reverse out onto this single access road, causing further traffic chaos. The application for the food retail site at the rear of the site has HGVs driving through the customer parking areas and then reversing out onto the access road. This contravenes the highway code. All well-designed stores have dedicated service entrances for HGVs. Separation of retail customers and HGV service areas is a wise and common practice because mixing HGVs with customers is dangerous and unsafe. Having HGVs reverse out onto busy roads is also madness. A dedicated service road with the ability to HGVs to turn around and depart in forward gear is required for both stores. The planning officers, in their wisdom, have already agreed to a 28% increase in the size of the food retail outlet, despite being alerted to the fact that the site is already too congested. That room is needed to make the HGV access safer. Committee, it would be inadvisable for you to approve this application without the needs of the food retail store at the rear of the site to be being taken into consideration. Surely you design and build from the rear of it to the entrance. Do we want construction traffic going through the Home Bargains customer car parks as well as HGVs? It's all out of sequence. When the drive-in food outlet is built opposite, the traffic flows will become even more problematic. McDonald's is open from 6 till 11, and the new food outlet will be open similar times. So delivering at quiet times isn't practical unless you want to keep all the residents awake. Please refuse this application and call for a master plan for the whole of the development area so that the planning and phasing can be done in a proper and efficient manner. This application is inconsistent with accepted design norms, endangers customers, and worsens an already unsatisfactory traffic situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Hammonds. We move on to the final speaker, Adrian Fox, I believe, from the agent.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. The application before you seeks approval of reserved matters comprising layout, scale, appearance and landscaping. The application follows a grant of outline planning permission July 2019. The details before you relate to the first of 2 retail units approved under the outline consent. These details propose a store for the national retailer Home Bargains, who are very excited about bringing a new retail offer to Frome. A separate reserved matters application for the second retail unit is still going through the determination process. Is not a consideration at this committee. With outline plan permission already approved, the principle of retail development, the approval of reserved matters does not require the principle of development to be reconsidered. Retail use in this location is enshrined by the outline consent and the submitted details align with the type and amount of retail floor space already permitted. Likewise, the position and layout of the access arrangements into the site from the public highway was approved at the outline stage. As such, the approved access arrangements into the site are not subject to this application. The proposals will make a positive contribution to the area, resulting in significant private sector investment, along with the creation of up to 100 new operational jobs. Additional jobs will also be created through the construction phase. In planning policy terms, all relevant matters have been fully addressed, and your officers found the proposal to be entirely acceptable, as confirmed by the positive recommendation. This includes no objection being raised by the Highway Authority. It has been demonstrated that HGVs can manoeuvre safely within the site, and the safe operation of the site will be secure through existing planning conditions. This includes a condition limiting servicing hours and the requirement of a service and delivery vehicle traffic management plan for approval. This is not uncommon. Across Home Bargain's 600 stores, there are many examples of similar arrangements being successfully operated. In terms of design and landscaping, comments received during determination of the application have been fully considered. Where feasible, changes have been incorporated within the revised proposals that are supported by your officers. The topography of the site is recognised. The development has been designed to sit comfortably within its surroundings. This has been achieved through the reduction of the building height from that originally proposed and the regrading of part of the site with any excess material removed. Much of the existing landscaping to the southern boundary is also to be retained. This includes a prominent Category A oak tree. Furthermore, additional planting is also proposed to further minimise any visual impact. In terms of the existing oak tree, a planning condition has been agreed to ensure that the root protection area is maintained. The tree officers confirm that this satisfies their previous concern. Overall, the proposal to deliver a high-quality modern retail development which incorporates a range of sustainability measures, including solar panels on the roof. The proposals before you represent a viable and deliverable scheme being supported by a national retailer looking to introduce the first store in Frome. The applicant is ready to start works immediately and deliver new jobs and investment at a time when economic growth is greatly needed. We therefore strongly urge you to support your officer's recommendation and grant approval of reserved matters to deliver this first phase of retail development as permitted by the outline consent. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Fox, and thank you for staying with us. I appreciate it's been a long wait. Right, we're on to something just to remind everybody, this is reserved matters. The principle has already been established, and I think we just need to be wary of that. First of all, I think the lead officer wants to make a comment first.
Yeah, the chair's just really just confirmed what I was going to advise you. Effectively, the outline decision approves the delivery of retail units on the store, and the outline approval approves the access into the site. So effectively, what you've heard quite a lot from the local resident and also chairman of the Selwood Parish Council about concerns about access, that's technically not something you can take into account. You can take into account the arrangements once service vehicles access the site, and whether or not you consider there's going to be an issue in terms of conflict between customers and service vehicles. But again, it isn't uncommon. Go and have a look at the way in which the Aldi store in Shepton serviced. So again, we could have a long debate about the access arrangements and the customers who visit McDonald's and how that impacts on traffic flow in and around this part of the network. They're not matters for you to consider with this application.
Thank you. Could I ask, I think, if Emma would like to make some comments on the comments from the speakers before we go to the open session?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to clarify one thing before councillors started either forming thoughts in their heads or asking questions. At no point is the proposal for a service vehicle, so a delivery lorry, to reverse onto the access road. The swept paths have been considered quite carefully, in fact, very carefully. It's very difficult to see on that screen, unfortunately.
So they're coming.
But they are coming in. There is an amount of oversail onto the other side of the carriageway in both directions. But at one delivery vehicle per day, I cannot consider that to be harmful. But at no point are they reversing back out onto that access road. There is a route around the site to allow them to do all of their manoeuvring within the site.
Jane, if you go back to that other slide,
this one,
and you take members on the to the other slide, and just take members on that top right hand thumbnail.
So you'll come top right. So they're coming in here. We'll deliver with the service yard in a minute. come out of the service yard, round here, and then out the site. It is quite hard to see, but was on the file. So hopefully you had a chance to look at it. And then more detail of, so here's the service yard, which was, I know Emma's going to mention this, was moved to this side of the store to take it away from the residential development and bring it nearer to the existing commercial activity. So come in here, one reversing movement, which, you know, by a competent truck driver should be smooth, and then coming out in forward gear, and the rest of the circuit around the site is very much in forward gear with absolutely no reversing onto the highway.
Okay, any other comments, or I will then open it up. And I think, Helen, this is your patch, and I know you've asked to speak first.
Right, first of all, just a bit of background. I know that this is a given, but I just do want to explain to people. Again, it's in Local Plan Part 2. It was approved, and the inspector, that when he approved it, he said that development requirements and design principles, we need to design this whole area sensitively, because it's to ensure no harm to the setting of Frome, with particular regard to the listed buildings and the open countryside to the east, to have particular regard to site layout, building height, soft landscaping, to minimise the visual impact of this development on the edge of town location, and look at materials, especially that sort of thing. So that's some of the background information. When we went to outline, it actually, the access road was an issue and the vote was split. And it was a chair's decision because half the committee didn't want to let it go through, and it was mainly because of this access road. However, we are where we are, and so we've got to kind of work with it. Can I ask you not to do that, because I'm really tired, I'm trying to concentrate. Thank you. We've got to work with it. The other thing that was said at the time, sorry, I can't do it, I'm too tired. Can I ask you not to do it with a pen? Yeah, sorry. I'm just really, really tired, and I've got to do everything quickly. I've been told to do everything quickly. The other thing that was said at the time was that this commercial strip is very narrow, and that was always going to be a problem for warehouses that wanted to locate there, and for them to be able to get lorries in and out. So it's like we've just got to be as creative as we can with it. My concerns have been mainly the officer, Jane, has been fantastic at trying to accommodate my concerns around lots of different things. There's just still a few things that I'm concerned about. One of them is the oak tree, and the fact that the building does seem to go right into the root protection area. It goes about ½ a metre into the root protection area. And so I'm a bit concerned about that, because we've got an can't say it. A tree protection plan, but it's been half done, but we're still waiting for the other bit of it. And what I'm concerned about is, what if it doesn't work? At the moment in Frome, we're getting about 2 or 3 a year trees that are quite big, prominent trees that are being chopped down because somebody does an insurance claim and says there's a subsidence next to their house. And I'm just a bit concerned that going forward, that this oak tree, which is not protected, though it's considered to be category A, it's going to be a nuisance to the warehouse in future. And I'm just a bit concerned about how we can protect that. I sent you all some photos this morning showing that oak tree, and you can see that it's on a slope. I also showed you how the development was pretty much built out now, the Curo development, and I was very unhappy with the colour of those roofs, because it was supposed to be something that blended in to the countryside. But what I don't want to do is there's going to be basically a large warehouse behind those houses now, right on the top of the hill. What we've got to do is make sure the colour of it is not sort of black. Originally, I did object because I thought it was going to be black with a great big sign on it. I've withdrawn my objection. I'm trying to work constructively to get this through now, but it does involve quite a lot of conditions. So I've asked the officer, if going forward, that once the materials are decided by the applicant, that I also get to see them, so that we're looking at greys and dark, pale greens and that sort of, not really dark colours or stark colours that are going to stand out on the landscape. I also would like to see the landscape plan, and I wonder if we can do that now, Jane, or whether it's something we can do out of the meeting. Make sure that the hedgerow that's there are two hedgerows, by the way, on the north and the south of this long strip. Both of them have been proven to be important areas for bats going back and forward. There's going to be a good lighting design that's sensitive to bats, but we mustn't really just get those hedgerows down to almost nothing. They've got to be allowed to grow up to 3 metres or even more. They're quite big hedgerows, and they've got to be allowed to be as wide as possible. At the moment, looking at the scale on the drawings, it looks as if those hedgerows, particularly on the south side, that's the most important side for landscaping purposes, is going to only be about 1.5 to 2 metres wide. We want to make sure that hedgerow is as wide as possible, please, and is kept as a wildlife, literally as a wildlife area, that it isn't sort of cut back and manicured. It needs to be allowed to grow and to serve that function, both for wildlife and also for screening. So I think, sorry, I'm rushing, so it's all a bit much. The other conditions that I've asked if we can vote on, and I might need to make a proposal now, which is that can we ask for the car parking area to be porous material? We are going to be building over a pond. I didn't send you that picture because I didn't want to overwhelm you, but I've sent the picture to the officer. There is a pond there at the moment. Can we ask that we can have car parking of porous material? And although the applicant has a really good sustainability statement, and I didn't know that there was going to be solar panels on the roof, and you intend to, can we please condition it? Because at the moment it's not actually conditioned. So I'd like to condition that, please. And I think that's about everything, but can I have the right to come back if I can remember it, if I've forgotten everything? Yeah.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you for your efforts on the detail of this.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good example of a ward member really carrying out their role to have a look at reserve matters. I don't think we do this well enough and often enough, so thank you. And I'm sure the officer appreciates, even though it may be hard work to cope with them all, but it is really important, because these are the details which often make the difference to local residents. So thank you for that.
Actually, I made a proposal. I might need a seconder, which is to have a condition for porous materials in the car park and a condition for solar panels on the roof. Sorry.
Okay, we'll have those two ones. Do the officers want to make a comment on either of those conditions before we turn into a proposal?
Both of those conditions, additional conditions. So again, members, there's there's 5 conditions recommended that are pursuant to this reserve matters approval. A lot of the conditions that are pursuant to the outline are still also live. So if you like, there'll be 2 sets of conditions that the applicant will have to seek to discharge if the application is approved today. Some of the ones on the outline are still live, and then the additional 5 that we're recommending, and they're set out in the report pack. And then one of those does deal with the tree issue, which Councillor Kay raised. So again, that's covered. But the 2 additional conditions that she's just referred to, one, ensuring the delivery of the sustainable construction and the roof mounted PV, that is not on, and that will need to be added and then the issue of the surface treatment, the car park being permeable paving, that is also not proposed. So if you did want to add that as a committee, you'd need to vote on that.
Okay, and unless you're seconding it, I will go to Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Just a clarification. I appreciate this is reserved matters. A lot of the things decided outline, but I'd guess that I may be wrong. The outline, the actual retailer hadn't been identified at that point. The retailer has been named now. Is it possible that knowing the nature of, can't remember who the retailer is, but nature of their traffic movements, that there is a substantive issue to be considered at reserved matters about transport movements which couldn't have been dealt with at the outline stage because we hadn't identified who the retailer was? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Does somebody want to come back?
Yeah, unfortunately, Councillor Lovell, the answer is no. The assessment was based on an amount of retail floor space, both non-food and food. So this application being for the non-food element. So the answer to your question is no.
So taking that one step further, given we now know, have we had any comment from the applicant about any restrictions on delivery times? I think if I heard there is a limited number of vehicles per day. Is that clear? And can we condition that in any way in terms of time slots?
What we've had, Chairman, is confirmation that the number of service vehicles arriving and departing would be 1 per day. At the moment, there's a requirement to comply with the service strategy. It's one of the conditions on the outline as it's been revised over time, and that the applicant hasn't submitted the details for us to consider, but is obviously aware of the concerns and constraints that we need to operate.
Okay, that's really helpful. Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Chair. Just a very quick one. I thought this morning when we were talking about the old car park, we couldn't have sustainable surfacing, but now we can have sustainable surfacing. What's the difference between Yeovil and Frome?
I knew exactly where you meant, Councillor Clark. The difference, and unfortunately I didn't get the opportunity at the time to clarify with the Glastonbury car park. If it is to be adopted, it can't be permeable. I'm not saying it won't or will be. And that's the difference, is that this car park, there is no option, there's no possibility that we will be adopting this car park. So the materials that they choose to use, the management company for the car park, be that Home Bargains generally or a separate management company, will be responsible for the maintenance of surfacing.
Thank you for that clarification. We all learned something. Helen.
Right, I've remembered my other points. Just calm down a bit. Which are that oh, my mind's gone blank. Sorry. Which are around, okay, we need a site management plan, which I think is the plan for how the delivery vehicles are going to come on and off the site. Is that right? Right, and that's a condition. We're going to wait for that. So we also have another condition, which is to how we're going to deal with the oak tree and the fact that we're going into the root protection zone. What I'm concerned about, and it's a technical question really, is what if they come in and they're not good enough? What if Transport and Highways say that isn't good enough, or the tree officer says that's not good enough? Does that then put, I think they're precondition conditions, aren't they? Pre-commencement conditions.
The answer in short is that we would refuse them, and they're both pre-commencement conditions. So if they're refused, they would have to come back with an alternative solution before they can, if you like, occupy the development.
So can I come back, please? So the what the parish councillor mentioned was that through delegated authority, which I agreed with because I was told it wasn't going to affect this application. They've actually expanded and made their warehouse bigger. So if their warehouse wasn't made bigger, it would be a better protection for that tree, because there's a whole load of issues around the fact that, I mean, in some ways what they're trying to do is good. What they've done is they're saying that the slope slopes in 2 directions, and what they're going to do is cut out some of that land so that the warehouse sits lower on the top of the hill. So that's a good thing. However, what it will do is it will go down, it will leave the oak tree on a kind of a mound, because it's already, like the picture I showed you this morning, they've already gone in on one side of it to build the houses. So they're now going to cut down on the other side of it. So I'm just a bit concerned about this poor oak tree that's going to be left on a mound and whether it's going to just die. So I am concerned about the oak tree. The other thing is about the, I haven't studied the LEMP or the KEMP. I think it's the LEMP I need to look at, the Landscape and Environment Management Plan. But it would be good if we did something, we've done something similar on the FER3 site, where we've asked that they do not cut the hedgerow below 3 metres, I think, or it might be 2 metres in the summer, but allow early summer to allow it to grow back up to 3 or 4 metres. And that will then allow it to hide the warehouse. And it also, I mean, the people on the housing estate don't want to be looking at a big warehouse either. And likewise, there's been an issue about noise from the deliveries right next to the people. And just you can probably guess this, all the houses nearest to the warehouse are all the affordable homes, of course, right? And they're going to be the ones that will hear the air source heat pumps and the delivery vehicles most. So what the environmental health officers have done is they've come in and suggested that there's an acoustic fence. To begin with, there was a rumour going around that this was going to be a 7-metre acoustic fence, which proved to be nonsense, because that would have been like higher than this room. And I was really concerned about that effect of that on the landscape. But I would like to make sure that that also has a height limit. And I think it's mentioned in your paper, Jane, that it could be 2 metres, but can we condition it so that it is no more than 2 metres? So that's 2 extra conditions I'm asking for. Yeah.
Okay. Any comments on those 2 additional conditions?
Yeah, I mean, no problem, because it's a conditional requirement. An additional condition that we're recommending here is condition 4. Just to clarify, the servicing yard is actually at the entrance to the site, so it's not directly adjacent to the residential properties. It's effectively sandwiched between the retail store, part of the car park, and McDonald's.
It's the air source heat pumps that are next to the affordable housing flats. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a proposal from you then for these 4 additional conditions.
Just 2 actually, Chair, because the other ones are already recommended.
Okay, so you're content with those. So they're just 2 you're saying now.
Well,
can you make this clear?
So can I just check? Is the porous materials, is that already been agreed?
No, that's one of the new ones.
Oh, that's the new one. And the solar panels is a new one.
That's a new one, yeah.
So you're saying that a 2 metre maximum height of acoustic fence is already agreed?
There's a condition required. Condition 4 set out in the report pack requires the details to be submitted.
Can I ask that the details, when the details are submitted, I can see them, and they do not. We give an indication that we don't want that fence to be higher than 2 metres, as suggested in the report.
Just to say, Councillor Kay, generally they are 2 metres in height. So the ones that we've already approved to safeguard the residential development on the north side from the commercial plot have been approved at 2 metres. So
okay, thank you.
That's what it tends to be.
And the hedgerow, can we ensure that it's allowed to grow up to 3 metres or more in height?
That would be an issue that will be addressed by the length, which the
Can I be consulted on the length if it's not been done?
This plot will need to respond to, because the length for the Curo side, i.e. the housing side, has already been approved. Yeah, we can consult you on that as well.
So it's already been approved?
On the south side it has, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Right.
Okay, so Tony?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second Councillor Kay.
Okay, thank you.
So we have 2 conditions additional, and the 3rd one is already in train, the hedgerow one. Okay, any other comments from anyone else, or can we go to a vote on this one? People content to support Helen's proposal for 2 additional conditions?
Yeah.
Great. Anyone voting against?
You're happy.
Any voting against? No. Any abstentions? Couple of abstentions. On that basis, we have the motion passed for the additional conditions. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.
Yeah, but that's not the end, because we haven't actually voted on the substantive motion yet.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I wanted to get them one at a time.
So I would also wanted to say, if I may, that the councillor opposite suggested that there should be a deferral so that both warehouses are voted on at once, so that the whole of this delivery vehicle business and the lorry movement vehicles, and I just want to hear what the officers have to say about that, because it's been a long time, we've waited a long time, and the deferral, and I'm sorry, Richard, it may be that we just have to agree it. now. Oh, it looks like we're losing Martin anyway. But I just wondered if anybody else had any thoughts on that. No. Okay, no.
Any other comments? Do the officers have any comments about the deferring until we have both plots of land to be considered at the same time? Is there any timescale there we know of?
I think members, we're satisfied that the issues that will need to be resolved if planning permission is granted for this plot at reserve matters level, and then the details for plot 2 and forward, there will be issues of managing construction traffic through the car park if the car park's constructed, and again, not untypical.
Okay.
It's only boxed in.
Right. We'll go to one final speaker. Barry?
If Councillor Kay is proposing a deferral to go through this business about the road access, I would support it. I think it's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
Okay.
I'm not sure if I am proposing it. I wanted to find out what other people thought. Everyone wants to just go home, but it's like it's not fair really, because we need to give everything due consideration. So I don't know. I'm a bit on the fence because it's been a long time, and in a way I want to get on with it, but I understand what the local councillors are saying. And I am concerned about how we're going to build out phase 2 and the access road for phase 2 going through the phase 1 car park. It is going to be a problem. So
I do sympathise. When I saw it, I thought, well, why would you do this unless it's commercially expedient to do so? And by having a tenant, name tenant now, a name design and whatever, I suspect they haven't got another tenant sitting down the line at this stage far enough back. And because of that, I think we're in that position. However, I'm quite happy to take a member of the public to speak. Yeah.
Just trying to explain the phasing. TJ Morris, the owners of the site, they are the parent company of Home Bargains, so they're keen to move forward as quickly as possible. The second unit, there's no operator lined up. We fully appreciate there's issues to overcome, but we want to sort of ensure that TJ Morris can deliver their store. They purchase a site, they want to deliver something. They can't just keep waiting, because the second unit we just don't have a operator lined up for yet, and it may well be that will have to be refined to address some of the concerns, but they're very keen to deliver the first phase, hence why we pushed officers to try and determine this one's phase 1, because they are the owners of the site.
Okay, if it's okay just to say, if you look at the report pack members at 28.9, we're effectively recognising that actually if approval is granted for this plot, it might have constraints on what can be achieved on plot 2. And I think you've just heard from the agent for the landowner that they recognise that and reflect that as well.
Yes. I recognise that it is inevitably a result of this decision, but it's a commercial one, and we're in an environment where, let's say that the commercial market is not as viable, or not viable, it's not as active as it has been, and so if there is one to go ahead and they've made the decision, then we'll leave it at that and we take what's in front of us at this time. I don't know whether Emma wants to make any comment.
Please, Chair. It's more to reiterate what Simon said, what the agent said, what you've said, is that I've made it quite clear in my comments that the access route with an open business for phase 2 is not going to be ideal. They will need a very robust construction management plan to deal with that. The agent is very aware of that. And equally, depending on the number of HGV movements in and out of the site, as I described earlier, I don't think one a day I can describe as significant or severe or a problem. Depending on who goes into phase 2, that may or may not be the same answer. And again, I've made that quite clear in my comments, and the choice has been to go ahead with this phase 1 anyway. Yeah.
Okay, fine. I think, Helen, you've got the results of what other people think. And I think on that basis, we go to the recommendation we have in front of us, and that is in respect of the conditions outlined in the report. Could I have a proposer and a seconder, please? I got a proposer from Councillor Robbins and Success, a seconder from Councillor Ashton. On that basis, could I have a vote then, please, to support the officer recommendation? And we have, and any against? Any abstentions? One abstention, none against. Okay, thank you very much indeed. And we got this not far after 6, but thank you very much indeed.
Well done.
Yeah.
Chair, I presume that we're not doing the appeals report this month.
Thank you. We're not doing, thank you for that reminder. We're not doing the appeals report, and we need to have a discussion after this meeting as to how we handle the missing application. Thank you. In fact,